Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into Hoopsville on this Thursday evening. It is the 23rd of January. Believe it or not, we're nearly to the end of January, and supposedly next week we will be doing our marathon show. If you think I've gotten anything done about the marathon show this week, you're mistaken, because too many other things have been cropping up, including news today that we've already tweeted out. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. You can certainly also email us. Just use my personal account at this point, dave.mchugh at d3sports.com. That's the easiest way to do that. There's also plenty of other things to talk about around Division III, and we love hearing from you. So we can go to Facebook, where we're simulcasting the show, facebook.com/Hoopsville. You can also go to YouTube, where we're simulcasting the show, youtube.com/D3Hoopsville. And but if you're watching us on the Team One Sports app, or you're watching us on the online through our Blue Frame technology connection, don't go to the simulcast. Use Twitter. Use email. You can go to Facebook and message us if you want. That's certainly an option. Any of those options, we'd love to hear from you, and we'll certainly look forward to hearing what you may have to say in interacting with us. So there's certainly the top 25s to talk about. There's plenty to talk about in the top 25. Saw some movement in the top 25s. There were 3 new men's teams. There was just 1 new women's team. A little surprising in some of those results, but we did see some movement. Maybe not what we expected, but we'll get to that a little bit later in the program. Let's see. We also had some upsets. We had some results already this week that we should probably get to. I will call that up here momentarily as we look at the results from around Division III in the opening few days of this week. But most importantly, the NCAA Convention, as we've indicated in the last couple of shows, is underway in Anaheim, California. Next year will be Washington, D.C. We'll probably be there. They couldn't get out to Anaheim this year. Certainly wish we could have, but we couldn't, and so there you go. But that said, we will be I do need my glasses on. People are messaging me. We do have news coming out of there. Hello, Laura. Good to see you. Thanks for tuning into the show. Travis John says, Augustana had a prime opportunity to knock out North Central on the road last night. That win would have done them a lot of good. Well, yeah, of course, Travis. Not to be flip, but yes, they had a prime opportunity, because I would argue every team has a prime opportunity in the CCIW, just as every team in the WIAC has a prime opportunity. It doesn't mean they're going to be able to do it. Let's be realistic. Augustana is not the team of yesteryear, of the last 5 years. They're good. Don't get me wrong. They're well coached. Greg Giovanni's great. But they are not the same team. Yes, missed opportunity. But you could argue that every single night in the CCIW. All right, so let's get to the breaking news. There's 2 bits of breaking news here we've been telling you we would keep an eye on and keep tabs of. The first has to do with regional realignment. You might remember in the last 18 months, I want to say, maybe 2 years. I want to say year. I've lost track of the timing exactly. There was an effort to change regions in Division III. Now, what was it, 10 years ago? We went through a realignment that fixed some things, but it didn't solve everything, unfortunately. Of course, the Northeast Conference seems to be never solved at this point. However, a new proposal was put out that instead of trying to shoehorn everybody into the situations that they are, one, we would look at all the sports and see what's working and what's not, what sports need adjustments and what sports are probably okay. More importantly, the divisions growing. Is this model working in terms of how many schools are in each region? The answer basically was no, it's not working. So the proposal is to realign where necessary, also add regions. And that has taken a significant step forward as of today. From multiple sources, I'm told the D3 commissioners met and voted today, to overwhelmingly adopt this plan. Now, when this plan first came out, there were some sports that cried foul. Some sports said they were not informed of the process. I'm sorry if they felt that way. I have it on very good authority. Everybody was well informed. Maybe they didn't take it seriously. I don't know. Or maybe they didn't think it would affect them. but it affects everybody. Men's lacrosse has been at 2 regions. I think it's grown to 4 this year. They were kind of already in that process, so they should have been at 4, 5 years ago. They're at 290 schools now with the sport, and it's just inexcusable. So this move will push that even further. They'll go beyond 4 regions. They'll probably be getting to 6 or 8 at some point. In men's basketball, it'll go from 8 to 10. In football, it will go to 6. And there's other sports that will certainly affect soccer as well. The arguments had been, so after those arguments were kind of brought up and discussed, and there was enough vitriol, for lack of a better description, the Management Council, I believe, maybe the Championships Council, asked for it to be reevaluated again. It was. Committees were brought in again and discussed with again, and others were brought in. Long story short, it has worked its way through everything. It is now past the commissioners who have, again, overwhelmingly, and by one count that I got, it was 40 in favor out of 43. 40 were in favor, 1 opposed, 2 abstained. Overwhelming. It now goes to the Championships Committee, who meets in February to discuss that. It is likely, I can't imagine it won't pass the Championships Committee, and then it goes on to the Management's Council, which meets, I think it's going to be about April. I could be wrong on the timing. I didn't get a chance to look up the calendar today. And most likely will pass there. And here's the reality. I've been told that those at those levels, and certainly from the NCAA's point of view as well, this just makes quote-unquote sense. Now, I know there's some who don't like it. I know the football side is a little upset, and I think, and I'll be blunt, I think the football is not thinking this all the way through. I do realize there'll be more regions than at-large bids, but who cares? I don't think that's a thing. I just don't. I don't think that's a thing. I date it back to lacrosse, where they were, with 2 regions, we don't want these other schools to get bids and steal bids. And if you do the process, folks, it doesn't matter how many regions we have. It will add more voices. Certainly, the committees will expand. So instead of 8 members, as we have in basketball, those will be 10. And as I was talking to somebody today, some regions might feel a little small. Well, remember, I think you're allowed up to 25% of the region to be ranked. I think right now it's somewhere between 16 and 21 in most regions. Advocate for 25. Advocate for more teams to be ranked. So be it. This gives a chance for more teams to be ranked, be in the conversation, and at least get more people involved in the conversation. But more importantly, it breaks up the Northeast in basketball. It allows us to shift some things around, allow some more balance. Somebody said, well, there may be no ability in some sports to have the CCIW, WIAC, and MIAC avoid each other from being in each other's conferences in some way or form. Not all 3, but yeah, sure. They're in each other's conferences, or they're in each other's regions now. Some of this isn't going to change, but it's okay. So that is been approved, and I don't see how this isn't going to go forward. And when it goes forward, that will mean in 2021 and 22. So the 21-22 academic year, these new regions will be in place. No, we don't know what the regions are yet. We don't know the names of those regions. We don't know their makeup as of yet. Apparently there is a draft that has been put together, but it has not been approved. It has not been, said, yes, that's the plan. They need to go through those steps, and that's why it won't be until 21-22 that we see this expansion. And by then, we may have even more programs in a lot of sports, including lacrosses and soccers and otherwise. But that is the breaking news out of the NCAA that we know for sure will happen. We will see an expansion and a realignment of the regions. I would be shocked if the Championships Committee or the Management Council at any point in the line here derails it. And I don't have any problems with it. I really don't. Even on football's argument, I don't have a problem with it. I think people are overthinking things, making things more complicated. One person asked, is this regional realignment similar to how Division II operates their bracket? If so, I'm not a fan. It's basically like playing your conference tournament over the following week. No. Division III is not like Division II, and this realignment has nothing to do with what Division II does. It just has to do with creating more regions in some sports where they have been a little bit too slow, men's lacrosse, in growing. their regional line numbers. They need to grow faster, and this kind of, to be honest, kicks their ass, gets them to do that faster and in a more efficient way. It also allows big behemoth regions like the Northeast to get broken up a little bit. Last time we were doing this, we're like, well, who do we take out of the Northeast and put into the East or the Atlantic to try and balance things off? And it was felt that that can't happen. Well, now we can add a region in that area and say take some from the Atlantic, some from the East, and some from the Northeast, and maybe make a pocket, and then take some others and realign them and readjust and so forth. The West will get readjusted and looked at in the basketball sense. I don't know what the right solution is. Maybe even the South gets readjusted. But, there were the Centennial Conference in football is in the South region with teams in Texas. Doesn't make much sense. The NJAC in soccer is in the South region with the ODAC. That also makes no sense. So this allows for a little bit more balance and a little bit more obvious. And instead of hamstringing to the way it's been, max 8 regions, the idea is, wait, let's add 2 more and then divvy things up. That makes more sense. So maybe those Texas schools, the ASC and the CSAC, or the SSAC, or whatever we call it, that gets grouped into another region now. And now the South region in basketball is the SAA, the ODAC, the USA South, and maybe another, for all I know. I don't know. I'm kind of shooting from the hip here. Instead of including Texas, Texas gets maybe grouped in with a SCIAC. I don't know. But it would make a little bit more logistical sense, a little bit more obvious sense with the way things are broken up. So that's kind of where we see this going. The second bit of breaking news has to do with, before I jump on that, Alan Karen asks, regarding the regional expansion and alignment news coming from the convention, any word on whether UAA would remain multi-regional and new sports setup? I see no reason that it wouldn't. There's absolutely no reason to shoehorn the UAA into a region. It has a grandfather clause, much like the old GSAC did when there was the last realignment, and now the GSAC is obviously gone. But they have a clause essentially that says you can be multi-regional. There's a catch there, and it has to do with my next news in a minute. I'll bring that up. But I don't see the UAA getting shoehorned into one region. What might be fascinating is that they won't be in every single region like they pretty much are now. I know they aren't in every region. The Atlantic certainly doesn't have a UAA team. The Mid-Atlantic doesn't have a UAA team, or the West. But you kind of get my point. I think that is the next one. We'll see where they go, but I highly suspect UAA will be once again grandfathered into being in multi-regions. It just doesn't make any sense otherwise, unless they make a floater region. So the next set of news is we've been talking about the future of the CAC, and we've debated whether you've been reading on the D3 boards where I've been posting this, or I've said it on the show as well. Where is the CAC next? And if you remember, when the Southern Virginia and St. Mary's announced that they were leaving the conference back in early December, the first full week of December, those announcements came out. There was an article in the Pilot written down in near Christopher Newport about where is the future of the CAC, what is the future for Christopher Newport, etc. And when you talk to Christopher Newport, there are people who are a little bit close to the vest, clearly saying they're working on some things, didn't know where the future was. The CAC commissioner, on the other hand, was very enlightening and said we have probably 7, I think he said 7 to 8 schools that we're talking with, and we believe at the convention we can pull something together. Of course, folks like myself starting to try and figure that out. Do we have 7 or 8 teams sitting in the USA South that are willing, or not even 7 or 8 teams, but a handful of teams that are willing to join the CAC, and maybe a handful from somewhere else, and the CAC saves itself because the USA South is way too big? The answer is that's not where they're going. The other option was, well, maybe the ACAA will come together with the CAC, and you got schools out in California, you got Finlandia, you got elsewhere. Maybe they come together as a conference with the CAC. And, of course, the concern was, well, if the D3 institutes what has been widely thought to be being discussed of being a conference scheduling mandate to go with automatic qualifiers per the ACAA's creation, then that might pull that idea apart, because the CAC, there's no way Christopher Newport and Mills College are going to be playing each other once a year in any sport. You're not going L.A. to Virginia Beach. CNU might be able to justify the cost, but Mills College certainly can't. And we already know Finlandia can't. So the question became, will the ACA-CAC merger happen with the understanding that that could be in place? Well, here's your news. The CAC and ACAA, from what sources have told me, met last night and have approved a merger. Now, I don't know anything more than that. Well, I know a few things, but I don't know anything major more than that. I am under the impression that this will happen immediately, as in next year, as in the 2021 academic year, we'll see an ACAA-CAC merger. They will come together in some form. I'm assuming there's going to be no conference scheduling outside of maybe who can play each other on the East Coast. There are certainly a number of teams in the ACAA that are on the East Coast that could conceivably play in a CAC conference schedule, as it were. Remember, scheduling is a very important part of the CAC here. But the UC Santa Barbara Banana Slugs probably aren't going to be in that mix. Finlandia is going to be a little bit difficult. You do have Mills, and again, that's out in L.A. Kind of doubt they're going to jump in to a schedule like that. That's three of them. But then you have Pine Manor. You have Mount St. Mary. You have Pratt. There's a few others here. I want to make sure I've got them all here. SUNY Delhi's leaving, so they're irrelevant. Valley Forge is leaving. They're irrelevant. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to add, possibly more. I've heard the ACA may get another one. There's an application in, I've been told, but I don't want to reveal more than that. So 6 more coming to go with the 3 that would be remaining in 2 years' time in the CAC. And now you've got a 9-member conference. It's still a conference that can absorb some members and lose members. It's fine. It saves the AQ in a lot of sports. And so on and so forth. And if anything, I think I'm looking at St. Mary's and going, I think you pulled the ripcord too soon. Is it perfect? No. Do I love it? No. But it appears the CAC's at least saved itself going into next year. Now, remember, next year, the CAC still has St. Mary's and Southern Virginia next year in the conference. They don't leave for another year after that. York, I believe, is gone. I think they join the MAC Commonwealth next year. I could be wrong on that by a year, but I can't remember. I got to double check that one. So it may be a little convoluted next year, but there's still schools that could come into Division III that could get into this group, have an AQ available. It saves the AQ. So there's your big news. CAC and ACAA, from what I've been told by multiple sources, met last night and approved a merger of some kind. I don't know, if it would retain the CAC title, if it would retain the ACAA title, if it would become a new title. I don't know. It's got to hold on to probably some of the CAC attributes to hold on to the AQ. So essentially the ACAA would disappear. We go back to 42 regions or conferences, and the CAC would maintain itself. Doesn't mean they can't go through a name change, though. But that is most likely what happens to hold on to the AQs. And thus, the CAC saves itself from going down to 3 teams and having no options. Now, it's a crazy fix, but that's the fix it has in front of itself, and apparently the ACA teams were fine with joining a conference. They probably won't be playing conference games against CNU and the rest. They lose probably their best chance, but they also get in that large bid is essentially where this thing stands. But I've got that from a couple of sources. And unless something changed that I'm not aware of, unless something is inaccurate in what I've been told from multiple sources, from multiple points of view on this, I think that is your solution on that. So there you go. A little bit of breaking news for you at the top of this show. Normally we talk about games and outcomes. One of the biggest games and outcomes last night was Marietta getting thumped on by Mount Union 107-70. Coming up on the show, we will talk to Mount Union's coach in a matter of minutes. Actually, Mike Fuline will join us to talk about that dominating win by Mount Union. 37-point victory, and you could argue maybe it wasn't even that close. By the way, Denison, the last team in the NCAC, knocked off Worcester. Remember Worcester beat Wittenberg? there's reasons I wasn't voting for Worcester. I second-guessed myself on Tuesday, but by Wednesday I felt better about it. And then Whitworth and Whitman had a great game, and Whitman came out with the victory, 89-80 in that one. Augustana, as we pointed out, lost to North Central by 1, 54-53. Stevens Point lost to Oshkosh. I think Oshkosh might be finding its legs a little bit here, but I think they still need to win the conference. Amherst lost again, this time to Williams, 62-60. Amherst is now 11-6. And Oswego lost again. I don't know what's up with Oswego. They're now 11-3, lost to Oneonta. So that's just on the men's side. So we'll talk to Mike Fuline coming up here in just a matter of moments. Quickly, the rest of our guests, and then we'll take a break. We will be talking on the women's side to Cortland women's basketball coach J.C. Brooks. That team is leading the SUNYAC. They have wins over both New Paltz and Geneseo, seem to be in control of the SUNYAC women's race. We'll also talk in the WBCA Center Court segment with Keystone women's basketball coach Christina Danella. She'll talk to you about how she became an assistant coach right out of college, and by the 4 days before the first game had become the head coach of a D2 program, but how that experience and the support of other coaches has led her to Division III. We'll talk to her about that. And then coming up, we'll talk out west in the Northwest Conference. Pacific is leading the way. What? Yes, Pacific is leading the way. We will talk to their head coach on the women's side about what they have done in the few years under her leadership and why they've gotten up to 6 straight wins in the conference, including Whitworth, Puget Sound, Whitman, and George Fox. Those are part of the 6 wins. We'll talk to her about that. That's all ahead here on Hoopsville. Plus, we'll answer your questions if you have more about the conference news that we've announced or the regional alignment news. We'll try and answer it throughout the show as well. Phil reminds me, he says, I'm remembering correctly, York joins the MAC next season. So York leaves, but Southern Virginia and St. Mary's will still be there for one more year. If it is true that the CAC and ACAA are merging next year, and there's a lot of other details that I don't know right now, but we'll learn about soon enough. We'll take a break. When we come back, Mount Union and Mike Fuline joins us to talk about the craziness of yesterday's game against Marietta, and are they finally on everybody's radars? You listen to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com for the WBCA and ABC studios. More Hoopsville after this.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
I just wanted to get good grades and to do well. But it also made me realize that I have a lot of career goals.
You're there to get a full college experience, not only participate in your sport, but participate in things outside of that. And it's all about growing as a person.
My coaches have helped me with figuring out who I really am. Their lives are dedicated for us to succeed.
Welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm Mike Meller, head coach of Messiah Women's Basketball and member of the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. We really hope you enjoy the show. Back to you, Dave.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying this show on Thursday. Started off with a little different with the breaking news instead of recapping everything like we normally do, but c'est la vie. We'll still get to some of the recapping as we move forward on the show. We'll answer some of your questions as well, should we see them. You can email us, dave.mchugh@d3sports.com. You can also tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Of course, we're on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville, where we're simulcasting the show, and YouTube, where it's at YouTube.com at D3Hoopsville. Tommy says, this is York's last year in the CAC. Yes, Tommy, we did confirm that. Travis says, I'm new to Hoopsville, so this might have been beaten to death already, but where does St. Thomas currently stand as far as joining the D1 conference? Travis, stick with the show. We'll at least try and give you an update on that by the end, if you don't mind. I need to chat with some other things, as it were, here. All right, so let's talk about that big win. 107-70, Mount Union over Marietta. We knew the game on this Wednesday was going to be a big one. Obviously, Marietta was leading the conference, and for Mount Union to get a win would mean drawing alongside Marietta in the conference race, and certainly making a statement. Did we assuredly bet that that's what was going to happen? Of course not. We don't really know if that's how it's going to play out, but that's what you hope. Well, Mount Union got the win, 107-70. I almost wonder if Marietta showed up. Joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline, the man and the coach of the team who did show up, Mount Union. Coach Mike Feline joins us. Coach, congratulations, I think. Wow, that was a statement last night.
Well, thanks for having us, Dave. It was a good game. There's no doubt about it. We've been on the other side of that with Marietta. There's just some games where everything you kind of put up goes in, but honestly, we're just happy we played well and got a win. We didn't care if it was by one or by how many points, and be able to move on.
Well, you guys shot 55% in that game, 54% from beyond the arc, 19 of 35, and you out-rebounded them 23-10. That's the wrong number. That was the assist, 23-10. The rebounds was 38-31. They still shot well, let's be honest, 44% from the floor, though they were 3 for 15 from deep. Was it just that you guys were hitting shots, or was there other things that were working that you guys were able to take advantage of with Marietta last night?
I think we did defend, pretty well. They have so many weapons. They're so well disciplined. Anyone who has seen Marietta play over the years knows how structured they are and how good at what they do. How good they are at what they do. So we wanted to disrupt that the best we could. Once Nathan got into a groove a little bit offensively, it just kind of changed the entire game because when he's making shots and getting to the rim, he also creates for everybody else. He had a great game with 36 points, but we had him down for 11 assists. I think that's as impressive or more in a game like that.
Yeah, I noticed you said you had him down for 11 assists. The stats had him down for 10, Coach. 10 of 19 from the floor, 8 for 12 from deep, 8 for 9 for the free throw line, and second team high, 7 rebounds on top of that for his 36 points. Yeah, that was certainly impressive when you get Bauer Malone getting going like that. But, we can't discount necessarily. I mean, it wasn't a lot of points from John Carroll and Braden Poole in the starting lineup, just 10. But it's guys like that I know allow Bauer Malone to be open, or even guys like Frigga, who we can talk about in a minute on top of that. But this is more than – I assume that Bauer Malone's getting open and getting into great opportunities because the other guys are also doing their jobs.
And very true. Our goal every year coming in is to have 5 guys average double figures. I think, especially at the Division III level, I mean, there's so many skilled players that, the more you can spread it around, it's harder to guard. And we have that type of team. You have guys like Devontae and Logan Hill coming off the bench. And, I mean, let's face it, they do that willingly, to give us a spark and usually finish the games for us. So when you have unselfish guys who share the ball and who are talented, things like yesterday can happen. It would happen a little more often, but it's a fun group to coach, just very, very good group. They play hard, they play together, and I'm just very happy for them.
The risk, of course, here is you can't let this one get to your heads to some degree. Heidelberg probably humbled you guys a little bit back on the 4th when you lost to them by a point. Adrian Trine got you guys back in November. A win over Marietta, 107-70. You can be flying high pretty well in the locker room and feeling pretty good about yourselves, and then Wilmington can say, "Oh, hi. Do you see what Denison did to Worcester, by the way?"
Yeah.
So how do you keep the team from over-analyzing or over-enjoying this one to some degree?
Well, I mean, I think that's the question, right, that every adult knows. Every coach knows, anyone who's played. To our guys' credit, they understood that leaving the locker room, especially our seniors. We know how difficult of a place Wilmington is to play. It's our furthest trip in the league on the year. But quite honestly, Dave, and you've been around Division III basketball a very long time. Anybody in the OAC on the road, I don't care who it is, if you aren't mentally ready to go, you're going to lose. And our guys understand that. That doesn't always mean they're going to play well, but that message is loud and clear, not only from the coaches, but certainly the seniors on the team who have experienced it. And those games that you talked to us, I'm not sure if they humbled us. I just think we got beat. We got beat. We got smacked in the face a little bit, and that's okay. The way we responded from those is what I've been most impressed about with these guys. And I mean, if you look around the scope of Division I basketball, even, I mean, it's just hard to win on the road. And, there's a lot of really good teams out there who struggle with that. And then there's the really, really good teams who don't. And that's why they are ranked where they're at.
And I should point out that this game was at home, and you took advantage of that opportunity. You want to win at Timken. And certainly even a 1-point win is a big win over Marietta. But does a statement win like that, is it something that people should read into a little bit and go, okay, I know at the beginning of the year I thought Mount Union was a team to keep an eye on this year. Granted, the November games made that a little tough to ride that boat, but does this win kind of make the presence known? Mount Union is also the other team in this OAC?
I hope so. I would hope that last year did that. Not to be a dead horse, but we were a very good team last year.
Absolutely.
I mean, we go 22-6, and we finished the league playing 21 league games out of those 28 and finishing 16-5. Like, that's a really good team. And I think other coaches who had seen us play and played against us would say the same thing. So I'm biased now.
Oh, of course.
Dave, I mean, we were very good last year and very talented. And we have a lot of those same guys back this year, and that doesn't mean we're perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But one thing that we do like to do is go on the road and play different teams and challenge ourselves. That Michigan trip, I mean, we got beat. We played 2 very prepared teams with great coaches, and their best players played great. And ours struggled a little bit. Yeah. And that's what made us respond, I think, the way that we did. Went to Florida, had a great time, got together. All the families were down there, grew closer together as a team. And now you hope, as the season continues, you start to build off of that. You know, so the statement for us, I don't think is the margin of victory. I think it just kind of got away a little bit last night. But, you know, winning a game like that against a very talented team does help your confidence. And we understand now. We bring our A game. We can play with anybody.
Talking to Mike Fuline, the head coach of Mount Union, 13-3 on the season, 8-1 now in conference action. Of course, Heidelberg being the one that is the one loss in conference, but now tied with and really a half-game lead because you've got the tiebreaker officially with Marietta, though one game to play between the two. Let's talk about the players a little bit. Colin Curley leading the way as a sophomore, 17-plus points a game. We talked about Bauer Malone. He's second on the team at 16.5 points a game. Frigga, the senior, off the bench at 13 points a game. And you got guys like Hill, Slack, and Poole, even Painter Jr., who certainly are contributing along the way. In terms of rebounding, your top guy there is either Hill or Poole at 5 rebounds plus. And, of course, we think Bauer Malone's really good at shooting. He averages 6.1 assists a game. I cannot see why you wanted him to have 11. He certainly does it all well, but talk about how the other guys complement him.
You know, they do. Again, it's the system that we've been accustomed to is just we're finding the open man, you know, whoever that may be. I mean, a great example last night, Nate had 16 at halftime, or even, no, I think he maybe had 18. I don't know. But
I can find out.
Yeah, I mean, he was rolling. And then came out in the second half. I don't know if
he had 24 at halftime.
Oh, I'm sorry. See, I'm bad at this stuff. I just try to move on to the next
one. You sandbagged him there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So, you know, and he comes out, and I don't think he even looked to score. I think he didn't take a shot until about the 13-minute mark, and because they changed some things defensively, and he found the open man. And as a coach, that's the best feeling, right? So he gets others involved. Other people get him involved. There's times when he just kind of needs a break, and Colin brings the ball up the floor, or Devontae, or Chris, and just kind of get him coming off some screens. So we just try to not make it real complex, but understand that, you know, we're just trying to find who's open. We're trying to create that guy's open. We're sharing it, and you're shooting it. And if you miss it, we're going to try to rebound it and shoot it again, you know. So
he
try to simplify it as much as we can.
He went from 3 assists at halftime to 10. So clearly that example is there in what he did. What is it about this team that, I mean, I know what I was told. You got a couple transfers, and it looked like you had some pieces that were coming together. We knew you guys had a pretty strong season last year, building into this year to some degree. Obviously, everybody loses some players, and the adjustment to that is always in the conversation. But what is it about this team that you were so gung-ho about this season, outside of what we've talked about in the sense of, that we know that these guys are going to be good, but is there something that we can't see in a box score that shows how good these guys are?
Well, I think the experience of last year, you know, playing in a lot of those big games and having some success carries over. Sure. And we got a huge transfer in Logan Hill, who was from my hometown in Jackson, where I coached high school before this. And he's going to be a great addition for us over the next few years. And the way he fit in, just from a personality standpoint, a leadership standpoint, was like the greatest relief ever, right? Because we haven't had a transfer yet, and that was a big deal for us. So that was huge. And once you saw the team kind of coming together and really getting along and forming that relationship, that family, as we call it here, you felt pretty good. And then you start practicing a little bit, and you knew there was a long way to go. But then there were just flashes, Dave, where you're like, oof, that looked pretty good, you know. And if we can just kind of tie some of those things together, then, you know, we're going to have a chance to make some noise. And we knew our schedule was going to be really tough, especially in the non-league. But, you know, we're thankful for that now. And it kind of preparing us for the long road.
A couple other topics about this team that I'd love to chat with you about. First, let's talk with Frigga. I've watched only bits and pieces, and I wanted to watch more and feature one tonight, but my schedule got a hold of me today. He goes out there, and he shows himself off on YouTube in most crazy way, and not just himself. He's showing lots of people off. It just happens to be his channel. What's it like to be around a guy who's that, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for, but that kind of energetic, that kind of out there, just like, hey, here we are, and this is what we do. It's very different.
Well, here's what I would tell you, and I think I have said this before somewhere, but, I have 5 children, and so the number one question I get is, hey, Mike, how's your family? How's the kids? Great. The second one is, does this, Devontae, does this drive you crazy? And, those types of things. And to be honest with you, we are kind of private. I think every coach deep down likes to kind of keep things inside, but then there's always that guy, right? And I just, he's a special guy. The word you said was energy. I would add passion involved. He's got a great story to tell, and it's a great Division III story. You kind of came in here not very heavily recruited at all, and then has worked himself into an outstanding player. A family that travels all over the place to come and watch us play. So he's kind of built this brand. I remember 3 years ago, I can hear my son listen to his phone, and it sounded like I was talking. I'm like, Mikey, what are you listening to, bud? He goes, well, Devontae's vlogging. And I mean, Dave, honestly, I didn't know what the heck he was talking about. I didn't know what that meant.
I get it, sure.
So, and then as the time goes on, he came and said, Coach, we're going to do some of these things. And I'm like, I trust you. And I told him, I trust you, but understand, you have 8-year-olds watching this, and people who really care. And he took that to heart. And from everything I've been told, it's tremendous. Now, I will be honest with you. I've never watched one because I'm afraid to. I told him after the season, I'll watch them all, but our assistants say he does a great job. He knows what to put in and what not to. And he's just a great role model for Division III. He just really is. Probably for the younger generation, guys like us don't really get it, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. As long as things are being done in the positive light. And for what I've been told, that's what's happening.
Well, I'll say this much. Good advice telling him, hey, remember who might be watching this you don't realize. That's the best advice I think you could be given, because too many people go out there and do this kind of stuff and don't think, oh, wait a minute, somebody like my 10-year-old or your 9-year-old or even your 16-year-old could be watching this and taking it in themselves. So that's the best advice I've ever heard. On the flip side of that, I noticed the picture online. It was it was shared with me certainly as well. You guys save a special seat on the end of your bench for Papa. Can you give us a little bit more of a story about what you guys do with Papa and the special shirts you guys have been wearing?
Well, I appreciate that question. My father, just like all of us, is a special person in my life and has been there since I've coached freshman high school basketball at 19 years old at Ravenna High School. Has always sat at the end of the bench and has been the biggest supporter that you've ever seen. So he has been at every game for 24 years. And during that Michigan trip, you want to talk about a heck of a weekend, buddy. He just wasn't feeling too well and was getting some water retention in his stomach and just didn't look right. To make a long story short, he was diagnosed with multiple myeloma here, a few weeks ago, and has spent about 15 days at the Cleveland Clinic and started some chemotherapy with some of the best doctors in the world. And we're excited to say he's on his way home as we speak.
Good.
And is going to fight that. There's really not a cure for that, but there's certainly a lot of treatments to keep him around a while. A lot of our former guys were here last night. We kind of kept it private, but obviously our assistants just did a great job. They couldn't keep it in anymore. And he always has sat at the end of the bench forever and ever. And it's weird. It wasn't as fun last night. People were like, Mike, you had to really enjoy that. And you're happy for your guys, but selfishly, I was a little upset, that he couldn't be here. So, we kind of, it's not one of these dedications. Like, I make fun of them, like, hey, no one's dying yet here, brother. Let's not get all sentimental. But we talk about family, Dave, in our program, and I know a lot of programs do. But we're a big Italian family. We try to make that into our basketball family. So when one of us is hurting, we all are. But I appreciate you asking that, and hopefully, there's some brighter days here down the road.
Well, of course, we know the Chris Wentzler story at John Carroll. battling multiple myeloma, also at the Cleveland Clinic. So we know that battle's like, but we also know that battle can be beaten. So we wish your father well, and thanks for sharing the story. I really appreciate it. I just saw the picture of the seat.
Yeah.
That was shared with me, and I just had to ask because that's.
Yeah.
But
I appreciate you doing that.
I knew about your dad sitting on the end of the bench. That's a great story in itself. But on top of that, and so our best to your family, our best to your dad, and hopefully we see him on the end of the bench the next time you beat Marietta as well.
Thank you.
Sorry, Marietta fans. I'm not trying to say anything in particular. I got to let you go. I'd love to talk to you more. I have a feeling we will be talking to you more in the near future in itself. But congratulations on a statement win, to say the least, for this season, but also congratulations on really the season going the way you guys had hoped it would. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in?
I just want to say thank you for everything you do for Division III basketball. It's a special thing. I mean, it's the most genuine sport, I think, at this level, and the players and the families get to enjoy it, and we're just happy to be a part of it, and look forward to hearing from you in the future, my man.
Well, no, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. I suspect you'll have new assistant coaches next year after that. These will be openings?
It was a little bit of a tearjerker, and I did not want to do that before or after the game, but
sure.
it got to me a little bit, so I was very upset, and it made them buy me the first beer last night. I can tell you that.
That's good. Well, hey, appreciate the kind words. Thanks for sharing the story. Thanks for coming on the show. We'll talk to you down the road, and enjoy the rest of the season.
Thanks, David. Take care, bud.
Absolutely. Mike Fuline joining us here on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline. Appreciate him taking the time. Appreciate the assistant coaches putting out the word as well. But also thanks to their SIDs, and we'll get to the list at the end, but our friend Lenny especially. But they also have an assistant who helped us out today, and I really appreciate it. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll jump into some women's basketball. Head up to New York. Cortland is not dominating, but they're leading the SUNYAC race. We'll find out from J.C. Brooke about the Red Dragons and what she expects in the rest of the SUNYAC race, and whether Cortland has now supplanted the usual names we've seen at the top of the conference race. You listen to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. More Hoopsville after this.
Being a part of the different activities and organizations that I've been a part of, I'm actually able to see myself where I'm like, hey, I actually can make a change. I'm one person that can make a difference.
Division III has helped me to develop teamwork skills, critical thinking skills, time management skills.
It's not just about basketball, or it's not just about school. It's about developing yourself as a person altogether.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
For the love of the game. That's what it's all about, they say. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that.
It's more about team and the schools and communities we represent.
And for the many of us blessed with the strength to compete in sport at the college level, we understand that with what we were given comes a special obligation.
Our obligation to help those who have their own special needs and whose love for the game is no less intense.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. Since August of 2011, we and others from Division III campus communities have volunteered more than 250,000 hours, time away from the classroom and practice field, reaching across the country to coach and mentor Special Olympics athletes.
And to learn that in giving, we receive so much more in return. Help us keep that dream alive.
Be part of it.
Get involved.
You can make a difference.
It's on us to stop sexual assault
in any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all. It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us. All of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
I used to
never really talk. Ever. I was scared and shy. It was hard to look at people's faces. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. I made friends and won lots of gold medals. But I learned more than just playing golf. Special Olympics helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on this Thursday. By the way, hats off, Bob Quillman. He is on his way apparently over New Mexico right now, flying somewhere. I don't know. But he's tweeted out that he is, I see a picture of an airplane wing and engine. So at least we know the plane's in the air and successfully flying. And then a picture of me doing an interview with Mike Fuline. So apparently he's decided to pay for the Wi-Fi to listen to the show. So, Bob, hats off, sir. We look forward to having you back on the show in the near future. That's pretty cool, watching the show. And that, by the way, not the only one I've known who's done that, but the only one who's shown pictures. All right, let's switch gears. Let's talk women's basketball. If you're looking for interesting races, may I suggest you look in the SUNYAC. It's always an interesting race on the men's and women's side, let's be honest. But on the women's side, the one-game lead is Cortland's. They're perfect in the conference right now at 7-0, 13-1 overall. New Paltz is a game behind them, well, because Cortland beat them. And Geneseo's 2 games back, in part because Cortland beat them. Cortland's really having a heck of a season under J.C. Brooks. This is a program that was a 500 program a few years ago. Certainly had its breakout moments, but it's been a while since we've seen a 21 season. But they're 13-1. When you're 13-1, you get my attention. It also helps to have a sports information director I know pretty well who's going to get my attention. Joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Skype hotline live from Pittsburgh, I believe. It's J.C. Brooks. Coach, thanks for taking the time to join us.
Thank you. We're actually in Plattsburgh.
Plattsburgh. Pittsburgh, Plattsburgh. It's the same thing, right?
just a little colder up here.
Yeah, northeast New York versus heading to the southwest. Okay, a little different.
Right.
Of course, you're in Plattsburgh because coming up, you've got Plattsburgh on the brutal part of the trip because you'll also then play SUNY Potsdam the next day. Yeah. In case you were curious, Coach, I just thought I'd remind you of the brutality of this schedule.
Thank you. Thanks.
First and foremost, congratulations. 13-1, 7-0 in conference play. The one loss coming to Ithaca. Ithaca's always tough, but it came in Game 3 of the entire season. You beat Geneseo on the 6th of December in overtime, and you've kept things rolling since then. You've got to be pretty thrilled with where the team is.
Yeah, absolutely. After that Ithaca loss, I believe we learned a lot as a whole, and things just started coming together, and we just focus on getting better each day and playing the best that we can, staying hungry, staying focused, and they're playing really good basketball right now, so it's been fun.
It's certainly playing good basketball. Your last win over New Paltz, that was the big one on Tuesday, 61-55. It was at home. You got Oswego before that by 12. You beat Oneonta before that. And in easy fashion. Fredonia was an easy game, and I'm just looking at end results, Buffalo State, et cetera. We can keep going back. You got to win over Hamilton. Things are certainly going well. I've been asking this because it's hard for us to always gauge what coaches expected going in. Did you expect this kind of success from the team going in?
I'll have to be honest with you and say no.
Okay.
I did graduate 7 seniors last year.
Sure.
So I brought in 7 freshmen, and obviously you never know when you're going through the recruiting process how quickly the freshmen are going to make the transition to college basketball. I was fortunate, obviously, to get a Division II transfer, which has been a tremendous asset. But if you would have told me, when we started on October 15th, where we'd be right now, I would have told you were crazy.
I understand that. And certainly losing the 7 seniors is key. Actually, I forgot to check what you guys did last year because it's one of those things that, I don't need to think about.
Right.
It's last year, right, Coach? We don't need to worry about it.
Absolutely.
But more importantly, as I double check that, this conference has been basically the Geneseo race for a number of years. You guys last year were 12-14. New Paltz had led the way at 17-1 in conference play. Geneseo was 15-3. You guys were at 8-10. To be honest, it'd been kind of how this conference had been for a few years.
Yeah,
while you lost to 7 seniors, what has flipped?
I think, one of the biggest things is obviously the recruiting. I hit the recruiting trail pretty hard all last year. And I wanted just to get a higher level player. And I was fortunate enough to do that, which has been a great thing to have. The other thing is, last year coming in as a first-year head coach, here it is October 15th, and I'm implementing my new offense and defensive system. And I think we had 9 practices before our first scrimmage, so we struggled early on. Last season by January, February, we were doing well. We had, won 6 SUNYAC games in a row. And then coming back in this year, I think my 6 returners that I did have, they did a great job from when they came on campus, the end of August, with implementing that new offensive and defensive system to the girls when they were playing pickup. And I just think I got a head start on that because of those returners. So I think that helped us to get where we want to be. And like I said before, the freshmen have made that transition quicker than I expected.
Yeah, certainly quicker. I mean, with leaps and bounds to some degree. Insane how well they have done. I'm pulling up the stats here. My computer's running a little sluggish on me tonight. But when you look at the stats, what jumps out at me is that you've got certainly a double figure players, but you're deep. And you're probably deep because, well, you've got 7 freshmen, and you're still trying to figure out who's going to provide what. But let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players have played in every game. 12 have played in nearly every game.
Yeah.
That's willing to go deep and make sure to get is that because you're trying to figure out everything?
I think so. One thing that I do focus on with my kids is, putting multiple practices together where they play really well. And when I see kids do that throughout the week, I reward them with playing in games. If you can put a good week of practice together, you deserve that opportunity. And I will admit it's made my job a little bit tougher because, any given day I can put a kid in and it's like, holy cow, I don't want to take them out, because they're taking advantage of that playing time. But it has been nice, if a kid is struggling, that I can go to the next kid on the bench that's going to bring, that level that the other kid may have brought, I've had to live with a couple freshman mistakes, where you just got to live through when you're playing young. But they've done a great job where they're making mistakes and learning from them. And, I always tell them, make a new mistake. And they've kind of bought into that.
We talk about the freshmen, though. We should point out you're still led by a senior in Beth Bonin, nearly 18 points a game. She shoots 40% from beyond the arc. She's your biggest three-point shooter. She also averages nearly 4 assists a game and hauls down 4.5 rebounds a game. She also shoots 41% from the floor. And then it's a junior in Shannon McGuire at 11 points a game, also nearly 4 assists a game. Shoots as well, 39% from the floor, and is also an outside threat. So when we talk about the freshman, it's that freshman junior, and I shouldn't leave out, I think it's Flanagan, also the other junior.
Yeah.
That trio is certainly still leading the way.
Right, 100%. And I was fortunate. Beth is actually a senior transfer for us. I have 1 year with her. She transferred from Queens College and, was a 1,000-point scorer there in 3 years. Like I said, so I was fortunate to get her over the summer, and she's been obviously a huge addition to what we're doing. And then my juniors with Shannon and Megan, last year as sophomores, they didn't play as freshmen, under Coach Mosier, and they came in, and Shannon led us in scoring last year, and she got used to having kind of that role. And, this year she does have the same role, but not as much pressure with obviously having Beth on the floor. Megan is just kind of our hustle player that does all the dirty work, so I need her on the floor. Her energy is contagious, and, those three really do a great job of leading us.
Is there an element here of the unknown that the conference just didn't know what you had?
I think so. Once we started playing early on, Beth's name, obviously people are looking at stat sheets and, they get familiar with it. But I think as we've gone on and had some success, it's really about, if you try to hone in on Beth, we do have other people that can score. It's not just, a one-man team and, she does a good job at distributing the ball when necessary, but other kids have stepped up, when she is struggling or, getting double teamed or whatnot. And, other people can put the ball in the hoop.
Well, let's point out, you still have 11 games left in this.
Yes.
As we point out, we're on the road to Plattsburgh and then Potsdam, and that is not the easiest of trips. So at least it's getting done with now.
Yes.
But the conference knows you. They've seen you beat Geneseo in overtime. They've seen you beat New Paltz. Luckily, the Geneseo win was on the road. The New Paltz game, you still have to play on the road.
Right.
How do you keep this team reminded without boring them, to be blunt, that everyone knows you now, and now they're coming for you?
Right. I think we always have a word of the week. We talk about it in practice, and actually the last couple weeks, the word hasn't changed, and it's multiple words, and it's stay hungry. Stay hungry for success, and something that goes along with that is staying focused. We look at the game ahead of us. We never overlook anybody. Doesn't matter who we're playing. We do the same preparation, the same scouting report. But my biggest job right now is keeping them focused. Being able to bring it every day. And I think they learned their lesson a little bit last weekend. We didn't have a sharp practice the day before we went up to Oswego. And the first half, we were on the struggle bus. We scored 6 points in one quarter. It was not fun, but that was a great learning lesson for us that, within this league, anybody can beat anybody on any given night. And being able to bring it every day in practice so you feel good about going into games and being sharp. And, so every day before practice, we talk about it and, get 1% better every day and bring it to get ourselves and each other better.
I'm curious, how does your trip, while you were talking about the team getting better and obviously not resting on your laurels, I looked up the directions on this trip because I know the New York area, but I was kind of curious. How do you guys get from Cortland to Plattsburgh?
So what we did today, both us and the men's team, we traveled together on the same bus, and we practiced this morning 9 to 11, and we got on the bus at 12:30. Departed Cortland, and we actually kind of go down, not quite almost to Binghamton, but then we go up 88, past Oneonta, and then we stop in Albany. We stop at the mall, let them grab some food, walk around for about an hour, and then we get back on the bus and finish the 3-hour drive.
You don't even go to 90?
No. Coach Spanbauer, who's our men's coach, who's been in it a long time. This is his route, and this is the way he takes us.
Insanity.
So I'm just along for the ride.
So I know the trip as a drive. You take it up, you go around Syracuse, you hit 90, you hit the thruway, you take that to Rome, and then you shoot north of Utica. Basically, the reason I got so intrigued because it goes, you would drive right past my aunt and uncle's house on 365.
Oh, wow, okay.
And go through the Adirondacks, and then hit 87 north of Lake George, and then go up to Plattsburgh from there. But you guys go south?
Yeah, a little bit. It's like southeast. And
yeah,
then
I get it.
Go up. Yeah.
I know I know where you're going to shoot over to 88, but that makes it more insane to me. Why don't you play Oneonta on the way?
Oh, yeah, we hit that. Those are on you're right. That would make it, we should be smart and just make it a 3-game stretch.
Right. Come on. Wow. And of course, I assume you stay north, you go to Potsdam, and then you take Potsdam through Watertown. Back home.
Yeah.
So that part's normal.
Right. Well, and we will stay in Plattsburgh, obviously tonight and tomorrow night, and then we'll get up Saturday morning and head to Potsdam.
Coach, I don't mean to second guess coaches, but Coach Spanbauer, I think, needs to be talked to.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
I'll do
I'm not saying you have to go 365 through the Adirondacks.
Right.
But wow, I've never seen it. Well, it fits what New England. There's a lot of places in New England you can't get there from here.
Right.
Right? There's no straight line.
Yeah.
Kind of fits.
I was thinking might as well just go up to Montreal since we're pretty close to that.
Take a trip, make it educational. The school will love you for it.
That's right.
Obviously, you got this trip ahead. You're also at Fredonia and at Buffalo State. So the next 2 weeks, a little bit challenging, though Fredonia State and Buffalo State, not like going to Plattsburgh.
Right.
And then you kind of have a bulk at home. Oswego, Potsdam, Plattsburgh, Brockport, and Geneseo will all be home with a sprinkling of Oneonta and New Paltz on the road.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming get through these 4, and then you can kind of take a breath and then focus on just maintaining the home.
Yeah. And I do think, I'm excited about being at home. We seem to really get up. The crowd has been great. We've gotten great support this year. But like you said, with our next 4 here on the road, it is just, focusing on this. To be honest, when we played at Oswego last Saturday, that was the first time we were on the road since playing at Brockport early December.
Gotcha.
So we're still getting used to, the road trips, and what entails and, getting there a little bit early, but, not having our shoot arounds and things like that. So, but I am excited to be up for the test and see how we do, with our focus on these next 4 being on the road.
I should point out, Fran, your SID reminding me of a few things. 23-game winning streak in conference now, dating back to last year. You hadn't beaten Geneseo since the 15-16 season, hadn't won there since 13-14. By the way, you also had a good game against St. Bonaventure, St. Bonaventure to start the season, where you used to work, Coach.
Yes, that was fun.
And this is a program that certainly has been in the mix for conference titles, but it hasn't come since 2010. You're just in your second year leading this program.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? What is the ultimate goal that you're telling the team? Is this a SUNYAC championship that you're hoping to get, or is it, come on, we need to take more steps before we aim for the Big Apple, or at least make it a goal?
Yeah, we don't even talk about winning the championship right now. Our goal is just to be playing our best basketball at the end of February and climbing the hill, doing the little things consistently, working hard. But yeah, we haven't even talked about our record once. Obviously with beating New Paltz, they knew it was a lot on the table to take that sole possession of first place. But I just encourage them every day. Let's play our best basketball at the end of February and let's see what happens.
Well, is it Machias, New York?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Well, there's a Machias, Maine. I wanted to make sure it's said the same way, and I don't know if Machias, Maine says it right. So
yeah, that's how we say it. So
you went from Machias, Maine to Buffalo State as a player, stood out there. We certainly know how well you did in the SUNYAC there, and then you went into coaching, and you did certainly your fair share of D1. What brought you back to D3?
I think, to be honest, playing Division III basketball, at Buff State, as a coach, I always had an appreciation for a D3 athlete. And, spending 11 years as a Division I assistant, gave me great experience and 3 fantastic mentors with Jim Crowley, who's at Providence now, and Coach Zay, who's an assistant at VCU, and Coach Roos from Bowling Green. They taught me a little bit of everything. And years ago, people would ask me, do you want to be a head coach? And I was like, no, I loved my role as an assistant. But I think as time went on and my responsibilities changed, especially at Bowling Green, I finally got that urge to be a head coach and that itch where I really felt that, hey, I want to do this. And I was wondering, do I go D3? Do I, try to stay in D1 longer just to go D1? But I knew at the end of the day, no matter what level, I had to take, we all know there's good jobs and bad jobs,
right,
across the country. And I knew I wanted a good job. And so when Cortland opened up, it was like, holy cow, that's a good job, just with the tradition and the success and the academic majors and the support from the athletic department. So I threw my name in the mix. And, once being on campus, I got that Division III feel again. And, after working with Division I athletes for 11 years, thinking about the opportunity to coach athletes that were once like myself, that you literally play the game for the love of it. You're not getting that scholarship, but you do it because you love it. And it really being, like I said, being on campus made me want to do it. And I said, nope, I'm gonna go be a D3 head coach, and love it. Wouldn't want it any other way.
By the way, I see the chair of the East Region Committee for women's basketball. They've thrown you into the fire, have they not?
Yeah, it's weird. I just kind of applied to be on the committee because obviously the regional stuff is very new to me.
Sure.
After coming from Division I, and I was like, oh, I would
Very
like to be
different,
on that
Coach.
yes. And after being on the committee, they kind of just assigned me to be the chair. So I have been learning, the last couple of weeks, our conference calls, and we just coming up. We're doing the mock, rankings and this and that, but. I'm kind of leaning on the rest of the committee who does have a lot of experience to help guide me a little bit more. But looking forward to it. It seems like it's going to be interesting and a fun race, and always loving to learn new things.
I should have known that you were a chair because the national committee all seems to be made up of coaches who are having really good seasons, who are going to be in the mix for the national tournament, meaning they can't participate in at-large selections or bracketing. Of course you're in the mix, Coach. You're going to have to get removed from a phone call. Of course this is how this works.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay
yeah, of
with
course.
that if we stay in the mix.
Of course. If you had your druthers, as they say,
right.
that one you'd take. Coach, really appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate the thought of what your team is, and congratulations. Stay warm up there in Plattsburgh. We have a tradition on this show that we always give the final word to the coach. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in?
Just would like to thank you for the opportunity. As a former D3 player and now a Division III, head coach, I think what you do for our Division III world is fantastic. I look forward to watching the show and just kind of staying in the loop with what's going on across the country. But thank you for having me, and thanks for everything you do.
Well, thanks. Kind words of you. I appreciate it. Congratulations again. Look forward to talking to you down the road. And again, tell Spanbauer this Southeast idea is insanity.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. I don't live up there.
Okay. I will be sure to let him know.
Yeah, he's not going to listen. Thanks so much. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dave.
JC Brooks joining us on the Blue Frames Technology Skype Hoopsville hotline. Really appreciate her taking the time. That was fun to chat with her. Can't believe, right into the regional mix. If you had any questions, Coach, they're gone. We'll look forward to seeing how Cortland does the rest of the way. That SUNYAC race is not over. New Paltz and Geneseo still in the mix. It'll be fun to see how that all shakes out. When we come back, we talk more about the coaching road, as it were. Keystone's women's basketball coach, Coach Danella, joins us to talk about how she went from getting her first grad assistant coaching job out of college to being the head coach just 4 days before the start of the season and 3 months after being employed. It's how it actually helped her get to Keystone, believe it or not. We'll talk to her coming up, and still ahead, we also talk to Pacific's basketball coach, Coach Patrick Parker, joins us. They're both pre-taped, so they're all coming up ahead. And at the end of the show, we'll come back to the topics we already talked about, answer some of your questions and whatnot. If you stay with us, I saw an email. I'm going to get to it real quick. If you stay with us, Peyton, I will try and answer your questions at the end of the show. You listen to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com for the WBCA and ABC studios. More Hoopsville after this.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
It's on us. It's on all of us. And it's time to act now.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
It starts right when you hit the court. You imagine your finest moment. The game-winning shot that gets you to the dance. A monster dunk or no-look pass. and cutting down the net. Sports lets us dream of our own success and prepare us for our finest moments on and off the court.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
Being a part of the different activities and organizations that I've been a part of, I'm actually able to see myself where I'm like, hey, I actually can make a change. I'm one person that can make a difference.
Division III has helped me to develop teamwork skills, critical thinking skills, time management skills.
It's not just about basketball, or it's not just about school. It's about developing yourself as a person altogether.
I learned a lot of valuable lessons playing college football. I never thought about the health benefits of exercise until I actually started to talk to coaches in college. It's not only just for performance, it's for life. My coaches instilled the importance of well-being, not only building up strength, mental health, getting enough sleep, eating properly is all what it is to be healthy. I decided that I want to go on a personal trainer and share my knowledge that I obtained in college about physical and mental well-being.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
Welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm Amy Reed, head coach at RIT and a member of the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. We hope you enjoy the show. Now back to Dave.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on this Thursday
I'm Amy Reed,
evening.
head coach at RIT and a member of the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. We hope you enjoy the show. Now back to Dave. Welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm Amy Reed, head coach at RIT and a member of the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. Welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm Amy Reed, head coach at RIT and a member of the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. We hope you enjoy the show. Now back to Dave.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on this Thursday evening. I'm your host, Dave McHugh. As always, you may notice there's no video box up now. Well, that's because we've entered a pre-taped part of the show. Every once in a while, we've got to kind of pre-tape segments to get coaches we want on the air on particular days, and that's kind of what we're doing now. If you got questions for us, trust me, there's still more live show left. You can tweet us at D3Hoopsville or use the hashtag Hoopsville. Of course, we're simulcasting the show, and you can interact there as well on that stream at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Also on YouTube at youtube.com/D3Hoopsville. Of course, I want to thank our partners at Blue Frame Technology for the streaming capabilities in the first place, and we hope you're enjoying it maybe on your big screen. All right, so let's talk on Thursdays, as we always do, about the WBCA, big partners of Division III, and of course of Hoopsville, the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. On Thursdays, we present our WBCA Center Court. This week, a little bit different, and we honestly had some different topics, from a cancer fight to raising money. In this case, about being thrown in the deep end, as it were, and really the experience of coaching. There's lots of different tracks of how someone gets to a head coach. I'd argue this story is not your prototypical, but it does kind of harken back to the older times. Remember the Dave Hicksons and the Glenn Robinsons of the world? They started their head coaching jobs a year or two out of college. Well, that's kind of what the story is on this one as well. Joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline in the WBCA Center Court is Christina Danella, the head coach of Keystone. Coach, thanks for taking the time to join us.
Thank you for having me.
First and foremost, let's just talk about the fact that you have a very diverse background. You played and graduated at Marist. You have also coaching experience in Division II and Division III. You basically had all the divisions covered very quickly in your career.
Yes, and I mean, it's been a great experience so far. Like you said, I played Division I I've coached at Division II for 5 years, and I'm in my second year of coaching at Division III.
And we will get to the differences of those divisions here in a bit, and we'll certainly talk. I mean, not that we don't know the differences, but we'll talk about why in Division III too. But we should point out again, you were at Marist. You got that D1 experience. What decided for you to go the coaching route?
I knew from a really young age that that's what I wanted to do. I loved just coaching kids when I was growing up, whether it was AU teams or just camps and clinics. So I knew that was something I really wanted to do when I got older.
So I'm curious, as a D1 student athlete, what gets you into the system? What gets you down through the pipeline, as it were, to where you're going to end up as whether it's a GA or an assistant or whatever? How does that process start when you're a student?
Well, I actually went to the WBCA, So You Want to Be a Coach program. I went through that as a senior at Marist, and it was a great experience. They taught me a lot of great things. I got to network with a ton of people from across the country, so that was huge, and I felt like that really got me interested even more into being a grad assistant because I got my schooling paid for my master's, so that was also a plus. So I got to do what I loved, start my coaching career, and continue on my education.
Fascinating. Did you also, though, at Marist have the ability and the time to be more involved with the coaches and what they're doing, or did you kind of just immerse yourself and absorb it while watching?
I tried to do that. I mean, I was a redshirt as a redshirt junior at Marist because I did transfer. So during that year, I felt like I really got to learn our entire system, offense, defense, and kind of the behind the scenes of coaching. So I really used that year to my advantage. And then while I was playing during my junior and senior year, I got to learn from, one of the best coaches in the entire country.
That is true. That is true. not too shabby a coach there at Marist.
No, he's awesome.
And so then what took you to the next step? You're graduated, you're done, you got the coaching bug now, or at least you think you do. What's your next step on finding where you're going to end up?
I started applying for graduate assistant jobs, and I went out to Urbana University in Ohio, and I just really liked the university. It was small. It felt like home there. So I was offered the position, and I took it, and that was how it started.
But that's where everything also went crazy, did it not?
Yeah,
because
it did.
In that first year, you went from graduating college, becoming a GA, to becoming a head coach in a matter of what, maybe 6 months?
Yes, even less than that.
Yeah, okay. So, we won't get into all the details, but that certainly wasn't the plan. I'm fascinated, though, as how in the world it happened.
The plan was to sit behind a coach and to, get my master's and just learn kind of how to be a coach. And 4 days before our first game, our head coach was let go, and they named me head coach for the season. So,
to be blunt, was there anybody else on the staff?
No, it was just me and him at the time.
Okay.
So,
all right. So they obviously had no other options, and I don't mean that negatively.
Right.
I just mean
right.
This is why you go from first year GA of your life to head coach of a Division II program. What was the reaction within the team to you?
They reacted really positively. They really bought in. They knew that from the start, from when I got there in July, they knew that I was super dedicated to them. So me becoming the head coach at the time, it was kind of a seamless transition. They really bought in, and we had a really, really good year. So
we should point out, without going again into everything, because we don't need to go into everything, but you were also running practices to a larger degree while there. So for them, I'm guessing that transition wasn't too difficult.
No, not at all. I don't want to say I was acting like the head coach, but
right.
I did have a ton of responsibilities of running practices and running community service and doing kind of everything that a head coach does. So it was an easy transition for the kids.
I am curious, though. How many phone calls did you make when you realized you were becoming head coach 4 days before the very first game of the season? How many calls out to others are you making going, what am I in here?
I made quite a few, and I remember the one so vividly. It was to Coach Jada Pierce. She's now the head coach at Niagara, but she was one of my assistant coaches at Marist, and she's my mentor. And I called her hysterically crying because I was like, now what? Now what do? I don't know what I'm doing. And she calmed me down, and she kind of talked me through it. And she said, this is what you wanted. This is what you were made to do. And now you're being given this opportunity, so take advantage of it. And I mean, she helped me so much through that season, but through every single season that I've been through. So she's been really, really detrimental in my coaching career.
I think I looked this up. Was your first opponent Slippery Rock?
Yes, it was.
So you were at least at home.
Yes, we were home.
Though I'm fascinated, what did the other coaching staff say to you in pregame?
She said that I was very young, and
Yes.
she was kind of asking the whole situation of how
Sure.
it happened. And that was, I mean, everybody's reaction was, how did this happen? And there were some funny things that people have said along the way. I mean, we were playing one of our conference opponents when I was at Urbana, and he looked at me right before the game, and he said, I'm twice your age. And I was like,
Thanks.
I was like, okay. And he said, and this is your first game against us. And it was just such a weird interaction, but some of the little things that I'll never forget.
You went 18-10 that season. I mean,
Yeah.
Pretty solid season. I dare ask, why was that the only season?
So it was a great situation. I really loved Urbana. It was obviously the start of my coaching career, but I started looking back home in New Jersey, and I came across Caldwell University, and it just seemed to be a better fit because I would also be the associate athletic director, the senior women's administrator. It was only 45 minutes from where I grew up, so I really wanted to get back to New Jersey.
Well, you did a lot at Caldwell, also helping with Make-A-Wish programs. I think you may have done more than coach. Can you take from that Urbana first season? I mean, you got thrown in the fire. You didn't get the normal tutelage or mentorship as you would normally get going through it. Internship, for lack of a better description. Your internship was a full-time job in Division II that ended up 18-10 in the conference tournament. What was it about that season that you still hang on to that helps you with coaching now?
I mean, it was just, like you said, I got thrown into the fire, but I learned so much, and I learned it firsthand because I didn't have an assistant coach. I didn't have anybody to bounce ideas off of, and it was so nice to see that my team really bought into what I was doing. And I mean, everything was just on the fly because I had never done anything like that before. So I had so much support from our athletic department and from our institution, overall. And I owe them so much because it was a really good place. I was back there 2 years ago and just got to see the changes of, the university. And it's just, it brings back really, really good memories.
When you look back at that, how much did the coaching community also come to your side? I know you had the occasions ahead of games where it was a little bit awkward, but how much, you talked about reaching out to your former assistant, but how much did the rest of the community come to your aid?
Oh my gosh, the outreach was just amazing. I mean, just the coaching friends that I had, people that recruited me in college, it was just so many people reached out, and even people that I didn't know, it just came to me. And then when I went to the convention that year, so many people came up to me, and it was just a really, really, the coaching community is so great. They offer so much support. So it was really great to see.
So you moved on to Caldwell, and then you apparently got sick in New Jersey because you ended up in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Just tell me the transition of what you were looking for while looking for those coaching jobs that took you to different parts of the country.
Right. We were super successful at Caldwell, and the West Coast came calling, and I thought it would be a great opportunity. I was never in California before I took the job, so that was really interesting to me. But
welcome to California.
Yeah, exactly. But I thought it was going to be a great opportunity, which it was. I learned a lot about coaching that year and about myself, and I got to live in California. I got to live in San Francisco for a year, so that was really, really cool.
So what brought you to Keystone? What brought you to Division III might be the better question.
So in California, it just wasn't a great fit at SF State, and I really wanted to get back to the East Coast. So I started looking for jobs, and I wanted to explore Division III because a lot of my coaching friends had told me that, try Division III. I think you would really like it. So I started applying to different Division III jobs, and when I got onto the campus of Keystone for my interview, I just knew that was going to be my home. I just loved the support from the campus. I loved the campus itself. I knew that the program there was something that I could build, so it really intrigued me, and it felt comfortable. It felt like home.
What was it about Division III that your colleagues and your friends thought would be the right fit for you?
That's a good question. Now being in it for a year and a half, I love the balance of it. I love the student athletes. I think they're extremely skilled. Obviously, there's a lot of differences between Division II and Division III, but sure. Skill-wise, I think you can recruit a lot of the same players. On my current roster, I have 3 Division II transfers. So I think it's a high level of basketball, and the kids want to compete day in and day out, and they value their education, which is really big to me. So I think it's a really good fit.
When you look back as a Division I student athlete, are there aspects of Division I you wish Division III would adopt, and in the reverse, are there aspects of Division III that you wish Division I would have?
The only thing that I think I would love to see in Division III is just more time with the kids in the preseason and the postseason. That's my only thing that I wish there was more time, even if it was 4 hours a week, because it's really hard to start October 15th and you're going from 0 hours to 20 hours a week. So that's a lot on the kids. I think it's a difficult transition. But I think that's the only thing that I wish was a little different at Division III. But we adjust to it, we make it work. Yeah.
I hear the stories in Division I that it's a job, and I'm being very generic there. But again, I quote the football comment I heard at the end of the championship. We started this championship drive on January 19th last year. Wait, what? Right. That's just not something you would hear in Division III. Are there aspects of that D3, that world, that maybe D1 needs to consider? Is it too much of a job in D1?
It's crazy because I lived it.
Right.
I obviously played it, and I loved every single second that I was at the Division I level. So, it was a lot, though. You don't get a summer. You don't get, preseason, postseason. It's a ton of hours. It's a huge commitment, but at the end of the day, how I looked at it was these are my last 4 years of playing basketball. So I wanted it as much as I could. I fully submerged myself into it. So I thought that was, it's just, it's some kids don't want that all the time. Some kids do. So I think just the balance and finding the balance of it is good.
Back to the coaching side, what has this experience been from being thrown straight into the fire at Urbana and having a successful season, for lack of a better description, and then having multiple other opportunities around the country, and now to be at Keystone? 7 years of experience, and you haven't even turned 30 yet. What has this life experience been?
Oh, it's been amazing, and it validates that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I love it, and I've had such great experiences at every single place that I've been. The good, the bad, I've taken it with me, and I can't get enough of it.
I suspect coaches who get jobs later in life after having lots of assistant coaching experiences, they may have changed a little bit, but once they become a coach, they kind of have their ways of doing things. How much have you changed, though, as a coach since you started at Urbana?
I think every year it just depends on the kids that you have. I think you have to adapt to them because the generations are changing, and each year, brings different kids and different personalities. And I've learned that I can't be the same coach that I was maybe at Caldwell that I am at Keystone. I think I've calmed down a little bit. That's for sure. But I think you have to get that bond with your kids, and that kind of maybe molds you into how you can act around them and how you can coach them, because some kids want to be screamed at. I had a kid at Caldwell, my point guard. She wanted me to get in her face and yell at her. And I have kids now that, I can't raise my voice or they might cry. So it's just learning each kid's personality and how they respond and what they respond best to.
Sure. Keystone's not a program that tends to get a lot of attention. There was an 18-9 season in 2012, 2013. Otherwise, it's a program that hovers at or below 500. But last year, 16-11. This year, you're 11-5, coming off of a big victory against St. Elizabeth on the road last night. You've made your mark here, have you not?
We're trying. We are trying to just worry about ourselves every single day and do what we can do and control what we can control, and hopefully move towards a conference championship at the end of this year.
What do you bring to the table to these student athletes that you've learned along the way, whether it's a D1 athlete yourself or having coached in D2, that you're maybe bringing to the table that not everybody else can in Division III?
I think my playing experience is huge. I think our players really respect that, and knowing that I did play at a very high level, I think they really respect that. And coaching at a higher level, I like I said, I have 3 Division II transfers, so they've already played a year at Division II, so they have kind of that Division II mindset, and now it's at Division III. But I also think I have a great bond with my players. I'm getting older, but I'm not that far removed from where they are. So I think that definitely helps.
Poughkeepsie isn't that far away. Are we gonna get a preseason or early season scrimmage type game with you guys in Marist sometime?
I am trying. Coach Georges, I'm calling you out. I would love to. Absolutely love to.
Even if it doesn't count for you and counts for them, it doesn't matter, right?
Exactly.
Let's go.
I would love to be back in Poughkeepsie.
That'd be fun. How the team's going this year? Again, 11-5 on a bit of a tear here. Your 4 losses came really in December. You'd love to maybe forget that month. York, Merchant Marine, Gwendolyn Mercy, and Kings. But since then, you've won 6 in a row. You've got the conference, obviously, slate still ahead of you. There's still a lot of games to be played, but you guys are doing well. How's it going for your point of view?
I think it's going really well. After last night's win, we've gotten through everybody in the conference, and we're at least once, and we're 9-0 in conference so far. So we're doing well, and we keep saying every single day we need to worry about ourselves and we need to control what we can control. We want to host the playoffs and hopefully the championship. So the number 1 spot is obviously what we want. And I think we're playing really, really well right now.
Obviously 9 games to play. 5 of them will be at home. So certainly a balanced schedule ahead, but you got some tough travels. How do you keep everybody at this point in the season where we're fully in the grind, as it were? How do you keep everybody focused?
I think having a smaller roster definitely helps that. I only have 10 kids, and they all pretty much get playing time. So I think that helps. And, they know that we want to be on our home court on February 29th, hopefully cutting down the nets at about 3 o'clock. So we remind ourselves of that every single day. They work really, really hard, and they're a great group. They're a really fun group to coach.
Of course, you're now at the turn, too. Now everybody you've seen once. You're undefeated. The target's pretty big on your back. 2-game lead, but that can disappear quickly.
Yes, it can. And, we have a tough slate coming up. We have a few of the top teams that we have to play again. So, we've seen everybody, and I've just told our kids not to get cocky about things because everybody's coming for us. We were preseason number 1, and now obviously being undefeated in the conference so far, everybody's coming hard for us.
Yeah, there's no surprises left, as it were. Everybody knows everybody.
Exactly. Right, exactly.
Well, Coach, appreciate the chat and appreciate the insight. Fascinating travels, as it were, through the coaching ranks, from literally trying to learn the game to being in charge of a program in the span of 3 months. That's shocking just in the thought of it. Can't imagine experiencing it, but obviously it has made you who you are, and you're succeeding with it. Congratulations on that, and I thank you for taking part. We have a tradition on the show. We always leave the final comment for the guest. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in?
Thank you so much for tuning in. please catch a game. It's gokcgiants.com. Thank you.
Well, that's well done. Yes, absolutely. Go on and watch the team. I appreciate it. Take care. Good luck the rest of the season. We'll keep an eye on the Giants and look forward to chatting with you sometime down the road.
Thank you.
Absolutely. She is Christina Danella, joining us here on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline as part of the WBCA Center Court segment. Fascinating, even in this day and age, to be thrown into the fire like that. Clearly successful with that. Certainly the support of the coaching ranks there to keep her buoyed up and to keep that experience from being a negative one. I think that's the key. I don't think there's any coach out there who would want to see a team fail in that situation or see a fellow coach fail in that situation. And that's what these groups like the WBCA and the NABC are for, more than anything, is to help each other. And we can get into why sometimes I think the hiding of videos sometimes is funny, because these organizations and these coaches talk to each other all the time. But thanks to Coach Danella for joining us and talking about that experience. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll keep the women's basketball theme going. We'll jump all the way out to the West Coast, talk to Pacific, who is the surprise leaders of the Northwest Conference, or are they the surprise leaders? They have a say in whether that is a surprise or not. We'll talk to their head coach about how they're doing and succeeding, and still plenty more Hoopsville ahead. You're watching Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. Back with more after this.
College has given me the flexibility to pursue my passions and my interests, and I've recreated my identity for myself aside from just being an athlete.
My greatest personal discovery has been that I am capable of doing things that I didn't know I was capable of doing.
To be able to study what I wanted to and continue to play the sport I love, all of those things came together very nicely in one package in Division III.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor's Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
Being a part of the different activities and organizations that I've been a part of, I'm actually able to see myself where I'm like, hey, I actually can make a change. I'm one person that can make a difference.
Division III has helped me to develop teamwork skills, critical thinking skills, time management skills.
It's not just about basketball, or it's not just about school. It's about developing yourself as a person altogether.
It's on us. It's on all of us. And it's time to act now.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
I coined my definition of success in 1934. My definition of success is peace of mind attained only through self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to do the best of which you're capable. It's like reputation and character. Reputation is what others perceive you to be. Character is what you are.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, on this Thursday edition. We're remaining in our pre-taped segment of the show. Sometimes it's just easier to do it this way for everybody involved. If you got questions for us, don't forget Twitter, @D3Hoopsville and # Hoopsville. You're going to have to email me personally, not use the Hoopsville account, which is continuing to act up. Dave.mchugh@d3sports.com. That's how you can email us questions or comments or thoughts. You're welcome to do so. Of course, you can interact with me or the fans who are online. We're simulcasting the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville, simulcasting on YouTube at youtube.com/D3Hoopsville, but we certainly hope you're enjoying the experience on our Blue Frame Technology streaming platform, including on your big screen, possibly through Amazon, Roku, Apple, or Android options. All right, so we're staying with the women's theme. We're jumping out to the West Coast, to the Northwest Conference, and I think we've gotten a little bit spoiled of understanding who the top teams in this conference were. Whitworth and Whitman have certainly been at the top, but George Fox women have been one of the bellwethers of this conference for a long time. Of course, saw them out in Las Vegas, thought they were a very good team. Well, guess who's not leading the conference? It is not George Fox. It is not Whitworth. It's not Whitman. It's not Linfield. It's not Willamette. It's not Puget Sound either, who's been pretty good of late. It's Pacific, who has gotten through the last 4 games against George Fox, Puget Sound, Whitman, and Whitworth with victories and looking pretty good along the way. They are undefeated in conference, and it's got us curious. Joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline, it's the head coach of Pacific. It is Alicia Parker. Coach, thanks so much for taking the time, and congratulations on one heck of a season so far.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Let's just get it out of the way. 8-17 last year in your first year, 2-14 in conference. You're now 12-3, 6-0. Even, and I don't mean this badly, but even if things were to fall apart right now, you're having an outstanding season. This is terrific.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Definitely, yeah. I mean, I don't think people that was not their preseason guesses or anything like that, but the pieces have definitely been placed together, and we're off to a great start.
We still have 10 games left, so we're not going to get too far ahead or put the cart too far ahead of the horse, as it were, and we still have conference play. But to be 6-0 and to get through, well, really we could date it back to the first 6 games, because you had Linfield and then Lewis and Clark, George Fox, Puget Sound, Whitman, Whitworth, those 6. Mm-hmm. In the last few years, any one of those 6, including George Fox, has been a tough out, as it were. And so to get through all 6 in victories, some close, some not so close, your guys have definitely risen to the occasion, as it were, and the team's got to be pretty excited with how it's gone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think, the biggest thing we're trying to focus on this year is just each weekend, each game. It's like you said, our conference in general has been so competitive, and the last couple years specifically, more and more teams have just stepped up, where every single night, Willamette, they got George Fox one time already this year. You can't go into any game thinking, hey, they're at the bottom half, this game's going to be any easier than the next game. So as far as, the overall season, our culture, it's going really well. We're really excited, but we're also just taking it weekend by weekend and game by game, and, going into every game, doing our preparation the week before, in the sense that, we think and we know and we're confident that we should battle every single team in the league. So, of course, this start has definitely helped that and got our confidence there. But, each night, too, we've had, we have a pretty small roster. We've already had some injuries this season, and, like this last weekend, we didn't play with our starting point guard, and, we beat the Wits. So I think just in general that team culture of who's going to step up tonight and who's going to fill those shoes has been huge. Just weekend by weekend and not getting our ahead of ourselves. So, just focus on short-term goals versus long-term goals.
Well, the list of how that locker room is probably gained confidence is long, because not only did you beat George Fox, but you beat all the other 6 that you talked about. Not only have they overcome an injury to their starting point guard to get a couple of victories, proving somebody else can step up, but they've also shown that if you listen to what the coaches are preaching or trying to accomplish, you can make big results out of that. There's a lot of reasons that this run can build confidence, not only for this season, but moving forward. You're in your second year, and again, I think we saw signs last year that the team was turning in a different direction, but this is a significant step forward. What do we attribute that step forward with? Is it all based on confidence, or is there something else that's clicking?
I think the biggest thing is just, we came in knowing that we had to instill just a championship culture. And, I think that was something that we definitely worked to change last year, because it was not in the women's basketball program. That was not there. We only had, as far as kids that played last year, we had, 3 returners, and the rest, a couple other kids that were playing for us last year, but didn't get any minutes. And then we have a fresh new set of freshmen that came in. So, I think our juniors and seniors have really helped us set the tone to know what the work ethic it takes to be successful in this league. But I think, obviously it's the recruiting portion of it and just getting kids to buy into that. And, obviously we want to do something special here, and we want to create a championship culture, and that takes a lot of work, and that takes a ton of buy-in. And, this year it's just been consistent of kids getting reps in the gym, putting in the work, doing all the little stuff. So I think, and that's a big thing that I preach specifically as well, is like get your work in Monday through Friday, so that by Friday comes, we're ready to go. And I think that's what's building that confidence. So, even preseason, that's what it's for. But, we did not look like what we look like right now. And the pieces are starting to click together. Those wins are instilling some confidence. But, it's honestly coming from a lot of our leadership, and them, our juniors setting the tone just as much as we set the tone each week. So yeah, I think too, like just, the dream and the culture and all those things play together of figuring out our why. And I think this group in particularly has a really good why and is a very family culture. And it's showing on the floor week by week, just looking better and better as far as clicking chemistry out there. So it's a lot of fun to be a part of.
By the way, you hinted at it there. Your juniors leading the way. You've got 2 seniors on this team. Statistically, on the stat sheet at least, they are not ones that jump out. No disrespect to Jones or Hinckley, but it is this junior class and even sophomores and freshmen that are rising to the occasion. Oh, bad news, Northwest Conference. This group's coming back pretty intact in the future too. What is it about this group, this class, the juniors you point out, that they almost seem ahead of where you would expect many?
Yeah, so we have 3 seniors. One hasn't played this year, and then two, like you said, are both they've averaged anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes per game. So the 2, especially on the stat sheet, that are going to stand out are Courtney and Cammie, both juniors. So as far as, I don't know if you watched Courtney yet play, but just an overall great athlete, one of the best at Division III. Just, like I said, puts the work in, shooting really well from the 3. She's super athletic, so she's hard to guard. And then Cammie is a transfer within the league, so perfect timing for us as far as just needing someone to come in and help with that leadership role. I think we put a lot on Courtney's back, just in the sense of, getting people overall culture. If it's, doing stuff, she organizes, D3, it's all outside of season is on them. So, just as far as our timing, like we really needed someone to come in and help build that culture. And, Cammie's one of the best point guards, I think, in the league. And she does a great job as well. But between the 2 of them, it's just, one, it's helping our younger kids grow so much. And our younger kids, like, you pointed out, but we have some freshmen that can really play. But to have Courtney and Cammie in front of them and to challenge them every day and to make them better, and just to lead by example of, getting extra reps in the gym, doing all that stuff. It's a fun time to be a Pacific boxer. And I think there's a a bright future ahead, and I think those two are definitely a big portion of leading the way of how we're getting there.
Yeah, again, heads up conference. We got them to deal with next year. There's been a lot of coaching turnover in this conference in the last few years. I think we've gotten used to George Fox losing their coaches to D1. But within the realms of coaching changes, it's all come also within the conference. You all know each other really well. You were a former assistant at Whitworth. Other coaches have been former assistants at either at the schools or other locations. That breeds a lot of knowledge and certainly a lot of knowing each other pretty well. So in some ways, it's hard to break through and to be kind of above everybody else to some degree as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting in that sense because, we've had in the last 5 years, both Mike Meeks went Division I, and then as well as Lori Payne also went to Division I schools, which, is awesome for our conference. And then we've had two assistants in league and then one join. So as much as I think, we all know the conference in that sense, but I also think we're all doing different things than to some extent that the head coaches we worked under are doing. Yeah. Even the system that the new George Fox guy, he's a East Coast guy and he came in and he's running such a different system than Mike did. So even this will be my my sixth season in this league, and there's been a lot of change. So as far as even when I first got here, it was the top half versus the bottom half, and that has really changed in the last couple of years from who's on that top half to who's on that bottom half. It's a very competitive conference. It's a very fun conference as well, just because we all do know each other. We of course recruit similar kids, high academics, similar areas and things. But it also is, it will be interesting in these next couple of years, just, where the cards fall and if that continues to stay where it's anyone's game, or if a new top half and bottom half are created. It's too early to say, Obviously we are confident in what we're building, and but we know everyone else is working hard too. So it's just I have a ton of confidence just overall in the Northwest Conference. I've just seen the level of athletes that come through our conference, and it's like you said, George Fox was just played Scranton down there. Whitman's done well traditionally. UPS had some big D3 wins throughout their preseason. So I hope I really respect our league, and so I know you can't take anyone lightly, and I just think hopefully we continue to keep that level of play up, and if not, just continue to improve it.
Michael Capolino will learn that he can't bring in outside ideas. Don't worry. I'm pretty sure he'll get on track eventually. That's in case he's listening. Speaking of Capolino, though, you mentioned George Fox and Scranton. I saw them in Vegas. And when George Fox came out of there with a victory over Scranton and absolutely, put your foot in it, or put your foot down on it, win over UNE, my thinking was, they're a top 5 program. And I realize the conference is tough, but I'm even surprised if they're 3-3. What was it about your strategy going in that worked so well, and how you guys came out with at least the victory in the first go-around?
Yeah, I think our kids really executed our defensive game plan. George Fox, they have height on us. They have a bigger inside presence in the their post game, and I just think we executed really well. So and we started out scary. The first quarter was 4-9. So it was getting a little scary there for a second, but luckily they only scored 9 points as well. But I think it's just the difference. The George Fox team, they're running a different style this year, and we kind of run an opposite style that we like to get up and go fast pace. Similar to more Mike Meeks' old style in that scenario. Okay. But in that sense, I think they're a great team, but I think it just came down to, we executed and we made some big shots when it mattered. And, that was a nice game for us because, we kind of were able to pull it out from, our normal 2 to 3 point games to, over to our 10-point game there. And that was just executing at the end and getting stuff done. So, Yeah, I just think like I said, I think it came, as far as, I think they're an awesome program. I think, the offensive boards wise, like they challenged us more than any team has. And I think that was a big learning lesson for us. But yeah, I just think that our kids did a really good job as far as, defending their post play, because they'll post up every single one, 1 through 5 we'll get in there, and our kids did a really good job with that. And, they made some threes, but also, our kids executed that where, they have some really, really good shooters. They were going into that game. I think 2 or 3 of his kids were shooting like 50-60% from 3. Kaylee Bishop was one of the freshmen. And, I can't remember specifically what we held her to, but, our goal is not, hey, she's not making 3 tonight, but hey, every single time she shoots, you need to have a hand up. And I think especially our younger kids too, they fulfilled that and they did their job. And I think that was a big portion of how we got that done.
You held them to 47 points. That's insane. They hadn't been held that low since, 4 days prior. Willamette had them at 45. But those 2 games alone, George Fox hadn't scored that few points in years. So clearly something defensively was working as well for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just think that we executed, and we, every year at, every different team you have, it just depends on how detailed your scout is, because sometimes that just goes, even over the best basketball kids, that just goes way over their head. And I think defensively they broke down, and we did just a good job, knowing what they were going to come in with and what they were going to what their biggest strengths were. And for, they're a couple inches on us, I just think our kids did a good job at getting that done. So yeah, I was proud of them. And I mean, and defensively in general, I think for, something we just preach, and, it's just an attitude and an effort, and we like to get out and, pressure the ball. And I think our kids did a really good job at that, especially during that game. So.
Well, moving forward, you get the unique scheduling that you Portland general area folk schools get to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Where you'll be home against Willamette, on the road against Pacific Youth Lutheran this weekend, and then home against Lewis and Clark next weekend, and home again or on the road against Linfield. So you don't have the long 2-game bus trips to some degree. I assume this is a stretch you want to take advantage of.
Yeah, I mean, for our conference and these Portland extended areas, your hardest turnaround to some extent could be because you play at home Friday night and then you have to drive the 3 hours the next morning. But which, same thing. It's all a mindset thing, and that's what we try to preach to our kids, where, hey, everyone else does it as well. The Tacoma schools, they have to come down. They do a similar. So, I think they're going to be tough, and, I think everyone was going to want to get that 6-0 gone and be the first team to do it. So, these 2 games, we're confident that they're winnable, but also, the thing we've been preaching to our kids all week is you just can't take anyone lightly, and we got to show up and play to our full ability. And it can't be not one of the games can be looked at differently. So yeah, we did have some of those, games at home, those bigger games. We still have to play, we'll have to play Fox on the road. We'll have to play Linfield on the road and Whitman on the road. So definitely will be, outstanding challenges for us. But, being able to get our home games in and, using that to our advantage is also going to be vital in this next, 2 games plus the second half of conference.
Yeah.
So
you've at least taken care of home court where you've needed to take care of home court.
Yeah. And, everyone should have that advantage to some part, and sometimes you still go to someone else's gym and, exceed those limits. But, we get to shoot on these hoops every single day, and we need to have that to our advantage. So January is kind of a weird little time too, because we don't have as many students, as everyone in the country. So, but yeah, we've been getting some good crowds, and that brings energy and excitement as well for our kids.
For the next 10, the last 10 are at home, so you're going to have a little bit of road weariness ahead. But as you pointed out, it's the WIT trip, and it's the other trips in there that will grind on you guys a little bit. But certainly to be up 6-0 in the conference, to have a half-game lead on Whitman, and to have a solid 2-game lead on Linfield and Willamette, and 3 on George Fox, again, it feels like you're playing with house money to some degree.
Yeah, I tell our girls every day. I just think we have to take it weekend by weekend, and we talk about not taking that for granted, and just knowing how quick you can lose something like that. So, I think, and one thing we preach a lot about too is just talking about you controlling your destiny versus other teams controlling your destiny. So, as much as we have that point lead or half lead going in, we want to control where we're, if we're playing at the end of the season, when we're playing, and where. So, I think we just need to focus week to week on what we can do versus less on what other people are doing. And of course that's so much harder, easier said than done. But that's what we preach to them. Just let's control our destiny. And, that takes place. A big thing is getting that done this weekend. So,
sure.
We can't, anyone that, loses to those teams that are, 4 through 9 or whatever in that scenario. We just got to make sure to get our business done and
right.
not be dependent upon someone else.
Well, Coach, appreciate the time and the insight on the Boxers. Congratulations on what you're accomplishing out there in Forest Grove. Certainly impressive to see, and what is a conference I think is underrated in its quality and in its competitiveness. We certainly know Northwest Conference teams can come out en masse in the NCAA tournament, but I don't think it fully appreciate that it's as competitive as it is. So I appreciate the insight. As always, we give the coach the final word on the show. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
No, I just appreciate you guys, appreciate you having me, and appreciate you spending time to talk about the Northwest Conference. So, that's about it. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Works for me. Thanks for the time as well. Good luck the rest of the way. We'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
Okay, have a good one.
Absolutely. She's Alicia Parker, joining us from Pacific. The women's team, again, 12-3 overall, 6-0 in conference. They've got Willamette coming up here on the 24th. Then on the road against Pacific Lutheran on the 25th. Then the 31st, they're home against Lewis and Clark, and then on the road against Linfield. They still, as she pointed out, George Fox, Whitworth, Whitman, they basically have the entire second half of the schedule still to go, and they'll play most of those games on the road. But really good at this turn in the season to be where they are, and we congratulate them. Should be a great race. And remember, a little sidebar, I'm not sure if 3 teams can come out of the Northwest Conference yet or not. I think it's way too early to be trying to predict that. But remember, there's that trial now in Division III where conference opponents can't face off in the first round. We've unfortunately had to have that happen with the Northwest Conference in the past due to geographics. That rule for a couple of years now is in place, and maybe the Northwest Conference can take advantage of it. But still, a lot to play for, and don't want to get too far ahead of things. But fascinating insight on the Boxers. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll come back live, in fact, and start taking your questions and kind of put a bow on the show as well. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. Back with more after this.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else, and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
I just wanted to get good grades and to do well. But it also made me realize that I have a lot of career goals.
You're there to get a full college experience, not only participate in your sport, but participate in things outside of that. And it's all about growing as a person.
My coaches have helped me with figuring out who I really am. Their lives are dedicated for us to succeed.
Welcome back to Hoopsville. Forgot to unmute the mic. Welcome back, and we're now live again if you're watching us live. Thanks for tuning back into the show. If you got any questions for us as we wrap up this broadcast on this Thursday evening, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, email us dave.mchugh@d3sports.com. You can also, we're on the simulcast on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville, on YouTube, youtube.com/D3Hoopsville. Been a little bit quiet there during those tape segments, but we do have one question pending, at least, that we will get to from Peyton. Actually, it's two questions. And we'll quickly recap again the top 25 results from this week. I'm also just going to double-check. We didn't have any major scores going on tonight, something I hadn't checked earlier. So recapping, on the men's side, actually, I'll start with this. On the men's side, some Texas games primarily, nothing major there. On the women's side, also, there's a couple New England games in there, mainly Texas games, and nothing's jumping out at me. Nothing really jumping out at me as earth-shattering. So we'll get to the recap news in a moment. I'll answer the question Peyton asked us. He goes, would love to hear your thoughts on Union and Chris Murphy's team and emerging program. And who do you think emerges from the UAA from Emory and Washington? Well, let's start with Union. I don't know if they're emerging. They were 19-9 2 seasons ago, let's remember. Was it the last couple of seasons or in the last couple of years, they've had some dramatic runs to the NCAA tournament. So I don't think we can chalk it up as an emerging program. Yes, 10-14 last year, I realize. But 2 years ago, made the NCAA tournament. Beat New Jersey City in the first round, then lost to Plattsburgh State. Didn't they make? I think they made the tournament the year before that when they were 17-11, if memory serves. And lost to Rochester. Oh no, beat Wesleyan. Oh, I forgot about that. Beat Wesleyan and then lost to Rochester unceremoniously in the second round. So I don't think we can say that Union is emerging anymore. They're here. We know about them. Unfortunately, the Liberty League doesn't look all that competitive. Now, RPI is out to a tremendous start. They're 13-2, 8-0 in the year. Their two losses coming at the beginning of the season against Rutgers, Newark, and Westfield State, and they are undefeated since. But they also haven't played anybody, and that's RPI's problem. SUNY Cobleskill, Mount St. Mary, Sage, St. Lawrence, Clarkson. I know some of these are conference games barred. SUNY Delhi, well, that should be a regional game. Got to fix that in our system. Anna Maria, and then back into conference play. So RPI's played nobody. So we can't gauge how good 13-2 really is. In the rest of the conference, Ithaca is 10-3, 6-1 in conference. Hobart's 12-3 after a tremendous start, 6-2. Hobart is not living up to what I think some people had for expectations, losing 2 of their last 3 to Union and RPI and getting a win to Vassar in the middle. So I don't think the Liberty League's all that. RIT is 5-9. St. Lawrence is 4-9. Vassar is 6-9. Skidmore's 5-10. I'm not sure. I didn't realize that Joe Burke's team was losing as much as it had talent-wise from that unit. Remember, last year they had an all-region selection. Their wins are to Plattsburgh State, Rochester, and Vassar, along with Clarkson, and then Vassar a second time. So, okay, great. Chris Murphy's team's 9-4, and they're 6-2, and they won 4 in a row. Their 4 losses came in a 5-game stretch, and they beat Williams. But they played Hartwick, St. John, Fisher out of conference. They also played 2 games in the opening month, which makes no sense to me. They lost to Lycoming down in Daytona. They lost to Mount Union by 13 down in Daytona. They lost to RPI. So, hats off to Union, good team, but I'm not all that into it, Peyton. I'm not buying in. I'm not buying into anybody in the Liberty League right now, to be blunt. And Chris Murphy's team's been good. We know it, but they're 1 win shy of last year, but they're 10 wins shy of 2 years ago. So can they get to those 10 wins? We'll see. They've got, 2, 4, 6, 8, 11 games left plus conference play. We'll see. We'll see. RPI's got a gaudy record built on nothing. We'll see what this all means in the end, but I got nothing. As for Emory WashU, we talked about it on Sunday's show. If you want to go back and listen to the segment where we had Bob Quillman and Ryan Scott on late in the show, we talked mainly conferences, but we talked WashU and Emory. I moved, if memory serves, hold on. My top 25 is sitting down here, right? Is this top 25 from this week? No, it's not, actually. That's the wrong one. I don't have my top 25 in front of me. I apologize. But, that's interesting. I wonder where I put it. I moved WashU ahead of Emory, but back-to-back, basically calling them equal, because WashU's playing a little bit better right now. Emory has had a bit of a rough spot, but I think I'm still leaning towards Emory being the better team coming out of this conference. Anything's possible, for that matter, to be honest. Gordon Mann had an interesting take, and maybe it's something I might consider moving forward. He was talking on the women's side that he doesn't knock a UAA team when he's voting for the second loss of a weekend in a UAA doubleheader, especially, I assume, especially on the road. I don't remember him making a comment about a road game necessarily. I kind of dinged Emory a little bit for their loss to Brandeis. By the way, I moved Brandeis into my top 25, so I have 3 UAA teams in my top 25. And while I'm mentioning this, I can actually, let me see if I can call up my top 25. I have not blogged it. No one has seemed to complain this year. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. But the reason I haven't blogged it this year is simple, that I've been busy with a lot of other things. I may get to it here in a bit. We'll see. But again, nobody's complained that they're not seeing my top 25. So, it is what it is. So I put Emory 9, I put WashU 8. And if I go back to Gordon's mentality a little bit, maybe he's got a better take on it. It was the loss to Brandeis coupled with their loss earlier on to Guilford, and Guilford not looking nearly as strong, that made me kind of pause on Emory a bit. I moved WashU up. I moved Emory down. I got him 8-9. I might change my mind. But I've got Swarthmore 1. And by the way, they had to come from behind on Wednesday to beat Ursinus. I don't know if anybody noticed that. But they didn't have the lead until about 3 minutes left in the game. I moved St. John's up to 2. A little bit trepidatious about that, but they're playing well, and they've beaten St. Thomas pretty handily. So I decided to go for it. I put Randolph-Macon back up into the top 5 at 3, Elmhurst to 4, Marietta to 5, though that will now change. Colby to 6, St. Thomas 7, WashU 8, Emory 9, and Wittenberg fell from 2 to 10. I then had Middlebury 11. They also fell from 3. Platteville to 12. Center moved up to 13. St. Norbert moved up to 14. Nebraska Wesleyan held firm at 15. La Crosse fell to 16. I had La Crosse up near the top 10, I think. Virginia Wesleyan entered my poll at 17. Johns Hopkins re-entered my poll at 18. Springfield moved up a little bit to 19. I put Yeshiva 20. Now, Yeshiva is back after 35 days without playing, by the way, folks. They won last night. Didn't look too rusty, but Yeshiva is back, so the voters will remember Yeshiva a bit here. I have WPI moving up to 21, North Central in at 22, Brandeis in at 23, Mount Union in at 24, and I held Albion hold at 25. But back to your question, I think Emory's still the better team, but I think it's a pick-em at this point. I think both teams get into the tournament if everything were to hold steady. So, Peyton, I hope that answered your questions. I hope you stayed with it. You asked that question an hour ago, or more than an hour ago, but we had to get through some interviews before I could answer it. So there you go on that. By the way, Chad Hammonds tweeted out a USA article, Yahoo article about Augsburg game. Oh, who were they playing? Hold on a minute. Let me try and remember who they were playing last night. Charge. St. Olaf. At St. Olaf. Looked like St. Olaf got the buzzer beater to beat Augsburg, but they waved it off, saying that that it was, 0.3 on the clock, I think? I'm not going to be able to call up the article right now. And they said it was not a tip-in basket, that it was a control, catch, shoot, and that it was 0.3, 0.2 on the clock. I saw it. Looked like a tip-in from me. I know the rule is not that it has to be one-handed. It can be two-handed as long as you tip it kind of like a volleyball set. It can't rest in the palm and be controlled. Looked good to me. I think St. Olaf lost that one. Now, if anyone's curious, and this has come up in a couple different places we haven't talked about on the show, but once the referees are off the floor, there is no recourse. We can't go back and fix a game. We can't go back and restart a game from a certain point. There's no rule in the book that allows that to happen that I'm aware of. And so that's going to stick. St. Olaf's that's going to stick in St. Olaf's craw a little bit. Augsburg, I'm a little nervous about. I was pretty gung-ho about them. They're 12-4. In this side of the year, they've lost to St. John's by 19, and who hasn't lost to St. John's? Lost to Gustavus by 4, and then nearly lost to St. Olaf. And Bethel gave them a game as well. They got Concordia Moorhead and then St. Thomas ahead in the next week. I'm a little nervous about Augsburg. I like them, but maybe that just isn't coming together like they thought it would come together this year. That's interesting. I just saw a tweet I hadn't seen. Oh, never mind. Disregard. Thought it was to me, but it's actually I'm just included in the conversation. All right, so let's go back to the news that we broke at the top of the show, and then we'll wrap things up. First and foremost, regional realignment and expansion has cleared a significant hurdle, in my opinion, by getting past the commissioners group at the NCAA Convention, which is being held out in Anaheim. Things kind of started off, I think, was it last night officially. Today was the first real big day of meetings, though there were meetings yesterday too. There'll be more meetings tomorrow, and then the business session is held on Saturday. That's where D3 and all the divisions will vote on all the major things that needed to vote on. And Division 3's got 11 major bills, major things to vote on. 2 of them have to do with shortening the transition period. Some have to do with snacks and some other things. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll recap it Sunday. We'll also recap it on the marathon. But more importantly, back to my point, the commissioners met today, the commissioners of all the Division III conferences, there's 43 in total, and discussed a plan to expand and realign regions across all sports. In basketball, it would go to 10 from 8. It passed overwhelmingly. One count I was given was 40 in a favor, 1 against, and 2 abstained. By the way, abstaining is a pretty common thing. I don't understand it sometimes, but maybe it might have been the people who brought up the bill in the first place. Brad Bankston at the ODAC and Steve Ulrich at the Centennial were 2 of those behind it. There were others who certainly did some legwork. Of course, Steve Ulrich has now left his job and no longer technically in Division III. Brad Bankston still is. So it's very likely that Brad abstained from his vote, and that would make sense since he's involved in the fostering of it all. Anyway, my point being, the next step is the Championships Committee, which I'm told I believe will be meeting in February. Most likely will pass there because I think it passed there initially to begin with before it hit the Management Council and then was redirected back to the Championships Committee and then back to the group to get everybody back on board with this when it ran into a hurdle the last time out. It will go through Championships Council. I'd be shocked if it doesn't, and I think it's going to get through Management's Council without any problems as well. So as a result, I'm going to tell you now, I'd be shocked if we don't see 10 regions in men's and women's basketball, 6 regions in football, whatever the breakdown is for all the sports, starting in 2021-22 is the year that will go in place. We will spend basically the next year plus, 18 months, formulating all that. Obviously, the Management Council, I'm told, will probably be meeting in April, and that's when they'll take this up. I don't think it has to go anywhere further, by the way, and it doesn't have to go to a vote. So they'll spend the next year and a half essentially putting together these regions. They tend to keep this internal. I'll freely admit that'd be a project I'd love to be involved in. I would love to be involved trying to figure out how to craft regions. I think you can craft one out of a secondary one in New England with using an Atlantic conference or maybe an East conference and doing some other maneuvers and such. So that intrigues me. I would love to be involved, though I'm not an NCAA member, so I don't think it will be, but it'd be kind of cool, I think, to be involved with that. But anyway, that will take place in the next 18 months, and most likely we'll be seeing new regions in 21 and 22 academic year. The other news that I have, according to sources, let's call this an exclusive because I don't think anybody else has got this, is that the ACAA and the CAC will be coming together, most likely under the CAC's umbrella, because the CAC has the automatic bid, remember, for most of its sports, or at least the clock is still giving it and it hasn't run out. The ACAA has no bids whatsoever. So if they went under the ACAA umbrella, they'd have to start a new process. So most likely going under the CAC umbrella in terms of structure. I don't know, honestly. Excuse me, my monitor is blinking out over here, so it's bugging me. I don't know for sure if how it's all going to work, but I am told from my sources that the ACAA and the CAC would come together as quickly as next August to form a conference to essentially just hold on to an AQ. For the ACAA teams, give them a chance. For the CAC teams, hold on to it. Remember, the CAC will lose York after this year. They will retain St. Mary's and Southern Virginia for one more season, and then they leave for their respective groups. Southern Virginia going to the USA South, and St. Mary's, for some reason, going to the NEAC. But this will hold on to an AQ in sports like basketball. It also essentially, and this is something I didn't talk at the start of the show, what it will also do, and this I think is something no one realizes, it will essentially end Pool B. Pool B will go away because remember, you need a certain amount of teams to give that up. So I think the ratio is what? Well, ratio's tough, but it's about 9.5 to 1 or something like that. So if you got about 9 teams to 10 teams, then you get that Pool B. So now all the Pool B is the AEC, which is in its last year of waiting to get an automatic bid, and they will get it next year, and the ACAA, the members of the ACAA. There's no independents that aren't somewhat involved with the ACAA. So that would end all of them, and we wouldn't have a Pool B. And so that extra bid will automatically go into Pool C. Technically an extra bid in men's and women's basketball for an at-large team because Pool B will not absorb it. That's just an interesting aha. Other ramifications, the ACAA, for example, has Whitewater in its conference for soccer. I would assume Whitewater would somehow stay affiliated with this new merger so that they still have a chance at an AQ. Because remember, the WIAC does not have it doesn't even have a conference for men's soccer. I think that may change. I think the WIACs are looking to broaden that sport. I don't know, though. Those are the particulars I have not been able to nail down. Sunday, hopefully, we'll have more information on it. But at this time, I'm told a meeting happened last night, and the ACAA and the CAC agreed to come together as soon as next academic year as a conference. And so there you go. That's the big news that we have tonight on the show. And that, I believe, will wrap up our show. I'm just double-checking your streams, see if anybody is joined in. Travis says, my alma mater, SLU, is going through growing pains with a young team. Been tough to watch. Union could easily win the LL, especially with the D1 transfer they have playing now. Yeah, Union could absolutely win it, Travis. I'm not doubting that. I think RPI is going to have a say in that, certainly. I don't think much of the conference right now. Unfortunately, it's not as strong as it used to be. The Hartwicks and the Hobarts haven't been as strong as they've been. Even the RITs, the RPI. I mean, St. Lawrence. St. Lawrence used to be really good, and it just isn't there. And so Union could absolutely win the conference, no doubt. But I don't think they go into the NCAA tournament with a lot of people buying in to the Dutchman. I could be wrong. Absolutely could be wrong. But that's just how I see it. Excuse me. A few hiccups there. All right, that's going to wrap it up. We're going to be back on the air Sunday, 7 o'clock Eastern time. A reminder, as my monitor continues to flip out on me. I got a loose cable somewhere. A reminder that, oh, there it is. Yeah, I might want to stop doing that. A reminder that next Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, we will not be on the air. We will be on the air the following day, on Monday instead. We'll get you details. But a reminder, a week from today is supposed to be the marathon, and we will be working extremely hard the next 5 days to solidify that. I've also made the decision we're going to make another advertising push at the end of this week, beginning of next week, to get people on board to advertise on the show, but we will likely restart our fundraising efforts that we put aside for a few years. How we will, what platform we will use, I have not determined. But we will start. We may even use 2 platforms. I have a couple ideas, but we will restart that. Look for information. We'll make that big one. We'll make the marathon the big push on that. But right now, the plan would be going on the air 12 o'clock Eastern time. Interviews with whomever we decide to talk to until about 8 o'clock Eastern time, and then our patented happy hour starting at about 8 o'clock and going for an hour at least, if not a little longer. So there you go. There's Hoopsville for you in a nutshell. I may have permanently damaged a cable here, which is a shame, but we'll get that fixed for Sunday too. That's going to do it for us on this show. Thank you, everybody who tuned in. I want to thank all the guests that we had on the show as well, especially a couple who tap danced with what was a very tight schedule on our end to get some segments pre-taped. Of course, starts with Mount Union and Mike Fuline for joining us to talk about the absolutely statement win last night against Marietta, 107-70, and where Mount Union now stands. I want to thank him for coming on the show, certainly, in that regard. From Keystone, or from Cortland, let's do this in order. J.C. Brooks, the head coach of the women's program there. Want to thank her for coming on. From Keystone in the WBCA Center Court segment, Christina Danella for coming on the show. And from Pacific, Alicia Parker. She's actually Alicia Parker, just recently married. Want to thank her for coming on the show as well. Of course, a lot of the work behind the scenes is thanks to SIDs. Fran Elia from Cortland, big help in getting the Cortland segment put together. Casey Kopka from Mount Union. Of course, Lenny Reich, our friend. I want to thank them for their help for getting the segment put together. I also want to thank, Danny Campbell at Pacific for his help, and Ryan Nowitzki at Keystone for their help in getting the segments put together. Really couldn't do it without them. I want to thank our partners also at Blue Frame Technology for their assistance, as we've thanked them many times. Of course, if you're able to watch us on the Team One Sports app, you can watch us on Apple TV, Roku, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV. By the way, you can also watch us on teamonesports.com/Hoopsville. That's another way you can watch us online. You can also watch our shows on demand in any of those avenues. We want to thank them also for being the title sponsor of the hotline this year. Once again, the second year that they've been part of that. If you have any streaming thoughts or want to switch carriers maybe, or you need an upgrade to your streaming capabilities, give Blue Frame a call. They're more than happy to help you out. You can look them up online at blueframetech.com. That's blueframetech.com. And tell them I sent them your way. Well, that always helps us with our relationships with our partners as well. If you're interested in advertising on the show, whether you're a school, a conference, or a business, let us know. We have advertising space, and we would love to have you. We have packages available, discount for the rest of the season. So let us know, and we'll get you on board. That'll do it for us. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. Can't do this show without the help from those of my crew at D3Hoops.com and, of course, WBCA and NABC as well. And thanks for all of you who tuned in. Really appreciate it. Thanks to the coaches who came on. We'll look forward to talking to all of you down the road as well as we – oh, you know what, Travis? I almost forgot. You asked a question regarding St. Thomas and its D1 conference standing. I almost forgot. Travis, really quick before I wrap up, we're waiting to see if D1 approves a D3 to D1 avenue. That will take place this week. If that takes place, then we wait to see if St. Thomas is approved to be part of that new avenue. We would think that the two are synonymous because it's being created with St. Thomas in mind. If D1 denies that avenue, then it's over, and we start looking at where they may go in D3. I don't think they go to D2. That's certainly on the table, too. But I forgot to mention, NCAA Convention, that's where D1 is discussing the possibility of having St. Thomas or opening a portal that would allow D3 teams to jump to D1 in some way, putting that roadmap together. If they approve that roadmap, then they would say, will St. Thomas be approved to take that roadmap this year? I'm told that may be delayed until April, and we may not get an answer this week, but we may get a hint. Sorry, Travis, totally forgot to answer that question. We can dive into it more Sunday when we get more information on what did or did not happen in Anaheim. So there you go. And with that, we wrap things up. Thanks to our partners at the NABC, WBCA, D3Hoops.com. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you Sunday as we hit the air, 7 o'clock Eastern for a fun show. And don't forget, a week from today, it's our marathon show starting at 12 p.m. Eastern, and we'll go for at least probably 9, maybe 10 hours, talking nothing but Division III basketball. And we hope you'll join us. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com for the WBCA and ABC studios. If you want to talk Division III basketball, you've got to listen to Hoopsville. And you have. Thanks. See you Sunday.